Race fans, the 100% Cup Series welcomes you to the Charlotte Roval for the running of the Parking Lot 400. The final race in the round of 12, the event that will decide who makes it into the round of 8 and continues their playoff hopes. I'm Andre Grambush, joined alongside Michael David, and of course, Carlos Acosta up in the booth, pushing the buttons, bringing all the action to your TVs and computers. Michael, great to have you back in the booth. I think you and I are both in for a pretty entertaining show here at this road course.
Yeah, I'm glad to be here. Thanks for having me, Andre. Carlos, how you doing? Yeah, really excited for this road course. It's going to be my first experience with the 100 Cup Series on a road course. So, super excited to get it started tonight. Can't wait.
Yeah, it is going to be a lot of fun. Of course, the 100% Cup Series at the beginning of the year has kind of changed how we do our road course protocol. Now, generally, the 100% Cup Series strives to kind of follow along with whatever NASCAR is doing in terms of rules and regulations. But for quality of life and due to some driver feedback, things were changed with road courses. And essentially, there will be no full course cautions barring an absolute disaster. And that includes cautions for stage finishes. So there will be stages in this race ending on laps 25 and lap 50. Stage points will be awarded. We will have stage winners, but the caution will not fly. They will continue racing under green flag conditions likely throughout the entirety of this event. So that's one thing to keep in mind to the viewers at home. It's going to be a little bit different than our average oval racing format. I do quickly want to mention the points as well, as this is the final race in the round of 12. Now, we don't have a pretty graphic for it. Just know that the drivers coming into this race beneath the cut line are Sean O'Brien Jr., who is currently 8 points back, Cameron Stone, who's 25 points back, Adam Benefiel, 28 points back, and Dustin Hall, 33 points back. Now, Dustin Hall was not able to make the grid tonight, so he is likely eliminated. But Adam Benefiel, Cameron Stone, these are two drivers that are former league champions. They have won it all in this series before, and now they're both finding themselves on the outside looking in, going into the round of 8 in a must-win situation. I know that both of these drivers have put in a lot of practice, so keep an eye on those guys and see what they do throughout the rest of the night. Now, Sean O'Brien Jr. being 8 points back, he's not necessarily in a must-win, but he does have to pick up some points here and there. He's got to hope that some of these guys in front of him maybe have some misfortune, that they drop some points. Ahead of these guys, the drivers that are currently safe in the round of 8, RJ Root, Matthew Long, Ralph Hutchison, Bryson Nixonbaugh 5th, Alex Murray 4th, Blake Giglio sitting 3rd in points, Lucas Hoytsma is 2nd in points, and Jonathan Delaney is currently leading the points with 8 wins, 15 stage wins, and of course Delaney and Hoytsma are both locked into the round of 8. That is one thing to keep in mind. Both those drivers had a win in the round of 12, so they are guaranteed to move on no matter what happens tonight. We are going to try to inform the viewers as to the points updates when the stages end. There's no guarantee, and again, we're not going to have a great graphic for that. We're just going to have to talk about it verbally, but there is somebody who should be talking in our ears relatively soon about the point situation as it develops. So we'll give you periodic updates, but practice is just about to wrap up, and we are headed toward the grid in just about 7 seconds. So we will momentarily get into our qualifying order. Again, this league runs all of its qualifying procedures throughout the week, so the drivers can kind of qualify whenever it fits into their schedule and when works for them. Although with this track, a lot of drivers were waiting to the last second to qualify, which kind of maybe tells you they're dreading this race. But we are at the grid, so let's see if we can get that qualifying graphic pulled up. Here it is. Alex Van de Sant is going to be starting it in the pole position right alongside, I believe, John Delaney. Blake Giglio, P3, Bryson Nixonbaugh 4th, Adam Benefiel 5th, again, one of the must-win drivers starting in the top 5. Devin Medeiros out to his outside. Cameron Stone is going to be starting P7 right behind Adam Benefiel. Robert Anderson 8th. Raymond Root and Lucas Hoytsma 9 and 10. Michael?
We got Penner Marty in 11th place. We got Travis Scrumita in 12th place. Matt DiCiani in 13th. Ralph Hutchison in 14th. Kyle Amon in 15th. Another driver on the Cups, Sean O'Brien Jr. in 16th. Derek Heitman in 17th. Chad Sander in 18th. Brandon Pierce in 19th. And rounding out your top 20 is going to be Jason D. Baker.
And looking just outside the top 20, we got Jason Taylor, who just signed a contract deal, I believe, for a new team next year. Although I'm not entirely sure what the situation is, what's going on behind the scenes. Alex Princeton is going to be P22. Wayne Grassy, 23rd. Matt Long for Lockdown Racing going to be starting P24. And behind them, you've got Nolan Hodgson, 25th. Randy Drumhiller, 26th. You've got Damaris Hickenbottom recently eliminated from the playoffs. He'll be starting 27th. Ryan Samuelson is going to be 28th. Kevin Steele, 29th. Preston McRae, 30th. And just to round out the rest of the field, Chad Edwards, Dalton Mobley, and Patrick Mouchet in 33rd. And we are rolling, getting ready to head to the start-finish line. Lights are off, so only one pace lap around this circuit. And here's an interesting discrepancy between iRacing and real life, Michael. So in real life, the drivers do not take the front stretch chicane for starts and restarts. They start on the oval portion of the track where the Geico restart zone is, and then only start using that chicane after the outlap is complete. However, on iRacing, you cannot use the oval portion. It is considered out of bounds even on the initial start. So these drivers on the start are going to have to be in the chicane. So depending on where you qualified, you might have to get on the throttle mid-turn, which is never fun.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be a challenge with these next-gen cars. I'm really excited to see how these drivers have set these cars up and how they're going to handle it throughout the race. Obviously, it's not just an oval tonight. We've got a road course, so they're going to be turning right. That being said, I know a lot of these drivers are extremely talented drivers. They know what they're doing. I think we're going to see a very, very, very solid race tonight. Like you said, for those drivers that are going to be starting a little bit further back in the field, it's going to be kind of challenging to get a clean start. Being surrounded by cars, going through that chicane, I think a lot of these drivers would definitely prefer to have the option of starting on the oval part. But yeah, like you said, they're going to have to start in the chicane.
And I know after last year, there was a lot of complaints about that to iRacing, and there was rumors that they were going to change it and update it, but I guess they never got around to it because they will be starting in the chicane. We're heading down the back straightaway into the first of two chicanes, which again, we will be taking under pacing, so you get an idea of where they're going there. But yeah, just a lot of interesting things at the start of this race. Not only where they're going to be starting, but just looking at the qualifying order, Alex Van de Sande, non-playoff driver. He's not here to win the title. He's just out here hunting for checkered flags. And, well, we've said all year that he's got a bit of a background in road course racing. That is primarily what he did on the iRacing service prior to joining 100% Cup Series. Well, we're at a road course. This is his home turf. And in practice and qualifying, he was far and away the car to beat. So we'll see if he can use this pole position and get that clean air and see what he can do with it. But there goes the pace car getting ready to make that left turn. And wow, wasting no time. Looks like Alex Van de Sande was getting on the throttle before they even got to the chicane. And that's going to put him out and away as John Delaney is battling side by side with Blake Giglio. They're going to sort themselves out single file mostly, but a little bit further back in the grid once you get to about Tanner Marty and Scrumeta in the 70. They are battling side by side even still back there. So lap one is underway. John Delaney trying to hunt down our leader. There's Cameron Stone working his way through 1 and 2, leading a train of cars there. He's got his teammate RJ Root behind him. But you can see right there, Michael, they're going all the way out off the racing surface. Track extending a little bit. Again, no rule against that as far as the Roval is concerned. Right up on that curb, running a risky line, but getting everything they can.
Yeah, no, you got to use as much of the track as you can to keep your speed up, especially on these road courses. You definitely want to find the apex, but sometimes that apex is a little further out than you think it is. They just got to be careful with that paint, that curbing. But for the most part, everybody's kind of getting a little spread out here already. We're seeing a bit of a stretch, but I think you're going to see a lot of people kind of picking and choosing where they're going to decide to make these moves to move up the field. You have to be very careful with your braking points, especially with these next-gen cars. I can't say it enough. I'm really excited to see this race. Just to see how the cars handle.
We do have a pass right there. It looks like we got Adam Benefiel nudging Bryson out of the way. And, you know, Adam Benefiel is a driver that I'm going to be watching all night long. Going into this race, he said, you know what? I may not be the best road course racer in the league, but he said that he's running this race for the Hall family. He's running it for Jimmy. Of course, everybody in the league very familiar with Jimmy Strong, and most of these drivers running a Jimmy Strong ribbon on their car. He is running this race for Coben, aka Jimmy, and he wants that checkered flag. And I'm sure he's not gonna pull any punches. He's gonna do whatever it takes to get up front. And in practice, I noticed he was just seeming to get better every lap. His qualifying effort was solid, up inside the top 5. But by the time practice had wrapped up, he was putting down lap times on pole with Delaney, or on par with Van de Sande and Delaney. So he'll be fun to watch. As we have Jonathan Delaney on screen there, still trying to run down our leader. There's Cameron Stone going through Oval 1 and 2. Let's ride on board for a minute here and just take a look at what it takes to get around this track. Now, Michael, you mentioned the braking, and that is a good point. That's something that is probably the biggest challenge for these guys, is hitting hitting their braking zones and doing it consistently. Because from what I've heard, now I don't have a whole lot of experience personally driving these cars. We do have the foot cam for, I believe that is Cameron Stone, as he works his way around this track. A little bit of added visual guide as
Wayne coming off there,
getting into that outside wall. Again, no full course caution, so he's just going to have to get it rolling again. But as I was saying, this next-gen car, from what I've heard, if you get on the brakes just a little bit, you feel like you're not braking at all. But if you go too far, it feels like it goes from nothing at all to too much braking, and you lock it up. It is super easy to skid your tires and really wear down on your equipment. And of course, if you're sliding the tires on corner entry, you're most likely going to blow the corner anyway. You're not going to be anywhere near the apex. So the braking is going to be very difficult for these guys, and especially the shifting as well. You can see the foot cam there. He's got to blip that throttle every time he shifts, try to get that thing kind of under control as he's working his way back out to the oval section, Oval 1 and 2. But yeah, just a really tough track to run.
Yeah, he's going to be using those load cells quite a bit tonight. You were mentioning that it's pretty hard. You can lock up the tires really easily with these next-gen cars. I myself don't have very much experience, especially on a road with the next-gen cars. Something that I do run weekly, though, is the Porsche 992 Cup car, which also doesn't have any ABS. It doesn't have any traction control. That's another car that, while it drives completely different than these next-gen cars, is extremely easy to lock the front brakes. So I kind of understand that quite a bit, actually. So you really need to pick your spots, especially when you're under pressure. You need to kind of decide when to attack and decide when to give up a spot, because sometimes letting somebody go is actually the better move. Because if it's going to help you in the long run, if it's going to help save your brakes, it's going to help save your tires, why not let somebody go through, let them burn up their tires? You're going to be burning up tires a lot more tonight than you would on a normal road, on a normal oval in these cars. So there's going to be a lot of different strategy that you would generally see. And but back to the brakes.
Whoa.
That is a big slide there.
As you were saying though, Michael.
Oh yeah, back to the brakes. Yeah, you got to be very careful with your braking points, especially on a course like this. Now, it is a road course, but it's almost set up like a street course. It's not very wide. You make a mistake and you're in a wall, so you got to be pretty careful. A lot of road courses have a lot of runoff area, and we've already seen a couple cars get pretty loose. We've already seen the 7 car get into the wall, so they're going to have to be very careful, especially with those low bumps.
Yeah, you know, you're very right how this is almost a little bit more like a street course here. Even sort of like a go-kart track, you know, however you want to describe it. Very condensed, very narrow, very tight turns. And it's not what you traditionally see these stock cars racing on. It is a very unique surface, as we are on board with Jonathan Delaney, with Carlos's favorite profile picture right next to the driver info there. But I'm a little bit surprised. Jonathan Delaney is not letting Van de Sant drive away with it. When I saw the qualifying times and when I saw the practice times, I thought, man, there's no way anybody has anything for Van de Sant. But all of a sudden, Delaney has just really turned it up, and he is on par, if not maybe a little bit quicker here and there before losing that time with gains. But, you know, John's got an interesting history with the Roval. Now, Michael, you weren't around for this, so I'll fill you in on one of the most baffling moments in 100% history. John Delaney, about a year ago, had the car to beat at the Roval. He was far and away the fastest driver. I mean, to the point where everybody had just decided before the race even started that John was going to win. People were congratulating him before they had even hit the grid. That's how fast he was. Jonathan Delaney was racking up incident points throughout the entire race. He was going off track, he was bumping into other cars, and of course this league does have an incident limit where if you reach that threshold, you will be disqualified from the session. Jonathan Delaney, coming out of the corner, slams on the throttle, and rear ends a lapped car in front of him, which puts him past the threshold and disqualifies him. It was one of the strangest things I think I've ever seen, and when we asked John about it in the interview, he didn't really have much of an explanation. So I'm sure he's looking for a little bit of redemption here, but man, oh man, every time we go to the Roval, I got to think about that. It was quite interesting.
Yeah, so I'm glad you kind of brought that up because, like you said, I'm kind of new to this league. so I don't have a lot of the history. Now, you said earlier that Van der Zandt has a long history of road course racing before he came into the NASCAR circuit. But not knowing very much about John Delaney, I was actually extremely, we've seen him completely dominate this season. So seeing him up on the podium, up in second place on qualifying didn't surprise me. But what is surprising me is, just like you said, he's sticking with Van der Zandt. Now, it sounds like last year he had the car to beat, so he's definitely got the experience to do so. But what I'm going to be a little more cautious about is who's going to be able to take care of their car more. That's going to be the biggest thing here between these two leaders right now, is if Van der Zandt has that experience over the rest of the field, then he's probably going to be a little bit more adept at, taking care of those tires. It's not like it's just the front right or the rear left that you have to worry about. You have to worry about all 4 tires. Especially we have, let's see here. 1, 2, we got 16 turns. 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, so I mean, you just gotta have to be very careful with the front tires, both the left and the right. So it's all going to be about who can save them the longest, who can extend their stints as much as they can. So we see we're already 7 laps into the stint, and you said our first stage ends at 25. So yeah, we're already kind of chopping away at this race. Kind of surprised.
Yeah, this should be a relatively quick race with no caution flags and a fairly short distance. I think it's going to be pretty quick, which is going to make it a little bit difficult for these drivers because they're not going to be on track for as long as they're used to, which means maybe not as much time to work their way to the front or make up for any potential mistakes. And of course, with no yellow flags, it also means that all of our pit stops are going to be under green, which means you have to get the perfect entry, the perfect exit. Your team has to get it right. They can't get you out of the box too slow, because if you make a mistake, well, there's not going to be a caution to pump everybody together and just rack them all up. Yeah, wherever you are on the track is pretty much where you're going to stay, so you don't want to give up any time whatsoever on pit road, and that's going to be an added challenge. Ryan Samuelson on board right now as he is currently running down, I believe, Kevin Steele. This is for 26th as they work their way into the first chicane, and I am noticing, 25th position, but I am noticing, Michael, it's interesting. Some drivers are really eager to get up on those turtles, on those curves, where they really abuse them and they kind of get the car up into the air and it slams back down, and it's really brutal on the car, but it is faster overall. Then you've got a few drivers like Samuelson, who we rode on board with, and he's taken a much more conservative approach. And I got to say, I don't think it's because Samuelson and Kevin Steele can't run those turtles. I don't think it's because they're afraid to. I think it's because they know how harsh that is on the car. The toe link has continually been the weakest link on this car, no pun intended. It has been the part that breaks and bends and just gives way more than any other component. And when you hit that curb, you're putting a lot of stress on the suspension and, by extension, your toe link. And so maybe some of these guys in the back have it right. Maybe they're taking the conservative approach, saving their car for later. And the guys up front, they're just all about speed. They want to get the fastest lap possible every single lap. But in doing so, man, they are absolutely running on the edge.
Yeah, I think I'd also be a little bit concerned with the front end aero. Those cars are very low to the ground, and those curbs are pretty tall. I know we see them kind of jumping up on the curbs and taking them quite a bit, but like you said, there's going to be some push and pull there. I would be a lot more concerned, especially those blue curbs right there. Those turtles, they'll bite you real quick. I actually found out the hard way earlier this week in a qualifying session about some curbs tearing up the front of your car. So yeah, no, you got to be very careful. I think I would also kind of lean towards the more conservative side, and you can still be pretty quick around this track without jumping the curbs. Obviously, that's gonna be the shortest way around the track, but I think I'd rather, be in it for the long haul, I guess you could say. Another thing, I thought you brought up a great point, how the pit stops are going to be really important, and I just want to reiterate that, because if you really give a look at this track, the pit straight is not a normal pit straight. So you have like about 3 or 4/5 of the regular Charlotte oval pit straight, and then it makes a sharp 90-degree turn to the left, and then you got to go all the way around turn 2, and then you kind of come out meeting up after turn 2 into turn 3. So not only do you have to go all the way down the pit straight where everybody's going to be pitting, you will still have an extra, quarter a third, whatever you want to call it, of pit lane that you have to navigate, plus a 90-degree turn. So pit stops are going to be extremely premium tonight. You really have to nail not only your pit stop, but the exit as well.
Yeah, the exit is going to be really fun to watch because not only, like you said, is it a harsh left turn, which you see almost nowhere else on the schedule. It is a very unique pit exit. But also, after they get across that yellow line that you see right there, there is no pit road speed limit. You can get on the throttle as hard as you want, as quick as you want, but there is a huge hill that you're going to be cresting after that left-hand turn where you're going to be kind of rising up and then dipping back down into the track surface. And you're going to be kind of out of control. You're not going to have a whole lot of control over your car when you're cresting that hill. If you've ever in real life taken a bike or a car over a hill at high speed, you know what that feels like, where you don't have full contact with the ground and thus you don't have full control. So you have to find the line between how fast can I exit the pit safely and how fast can I do it without absolutely destroying my car. Because obviously you don't want to give up any time, but at the same time, you definitely don't want to wreck your car coming out of the pits, and you don't want to merge into anybody coming out of the pits. That's another thing to think about too, is you're coming out right onto the racing surface where drivers will have just come around a blind corner, because that white wall, which you'll see the drivers were following along with right there, I believe that's Hutchison. Look at this white wall on the left-hand side. All right, when they come around this turn, they got that wall, and right there is where somebody's going to be coming back out onto the track. So not much warning on either part. I mean, when you're coming out, you can't see the drivers that are going to be coming up behind you either. So both drivers in this scenario are going to be going in blind, and it's going to be a big game of trust, I would say.
Yeah, and another thing here is, even though these cars deal with the bankings, like the high extreme bankings of the different super speedways and ovals that they go to, they don't deal with a lot of elevation change. So this is also going to throw another element in there. I know you said there's a big hill coming out of that pit exit, but there's a couple spots on this track where they're kind of going up a hill and down a hill and around a corner, and the only place that I could really think of would be Sonoma. Or I guess maybe Watkins Glen, a couple other road courses, but that's just not something that they generally usually deal with. So that's going to be another, added challenge that they're going to have to deal with.
Yeah, specifically in the middle of the infield portion of the track, after that quote-unquote back straightaway, they make a double right-hander. At first, it's sort of a gradual right-hander that tightens up, and right where it tightens up, you're climbing a massive hill and then going back down that hill. And whenever I've made laps here in this game, and even in some of the more arcade NASCAR games, the thing that I've noticed is a consistency there, is that the car always feels weightless. It feels like it wants to spin out. That rear end wants to come around on you, so you got to take it really easy. And you are going to see a lot of these guys. Again, there's Ralph Hutchison in the 54. When they get to that point where they get to the double right-hander, as they're cresting it, they are going to blip the throttle just to keep that thing under control. But we got a 3-wide TV replay. It looks like Delaney. Let's see what happened to the driver in second place down on that painted blue line, going into the final chicane. 2 tires in, and I'm hearing false alarm. He was all right. So nothing to worry about. And I was a bit worried there because I'm like, I think John's got a chance at this. But as our producer pointed out, probably getting it off track. But see, everybody's doing it. And so I'm not sure exactly where the track limit is going into that chicane. And I'm sure you've seen it too, Michael. Every single driver going into that final chicane is dipping 2 tires into the grass. And I'm not sure if it's a grip thing. I don't know if they're trying to cool down their tires. I don't know if they're just trying to take the widest entry possible. I think that's most likely. But
yeah, that's my guess.
If the game is considering that an off track, we've only got a 21 incident limit tonight. So don't want to be doing that too often if it's going to be giving you a 1x each time.
No, you definitely don't want to be doing that too often. But like you said, I think you hit the nail right on the head. I think they're trying to get the best exit out of that final chicane down into turn 1 straight. It's not going to gain you too much time, but at the same time, it's just going to make that turn 15, turn 60, it's just going to make it so much easier on you, so much easier on your car if you can kind of get around those curbs without having to jump up on them as much as you need to. So I really do think it's a bit of a strategy, but these drivers are going to have to back off quite a bit at some point in the race if they start, getting into that racing incident limit that, like you said, is only 21. That's not very much, especially on a road course.
Yeah, you always want to leave yourself some points in the bank because you never know. Maybe somebody spins out in front of you, maybe somebody bumps you from behind, and that's a 4X right there. If you didn't have 4X left, that could be a disqualification. Bottom of your 3-wide TV multicam, we do have a taker down pit road here on lap 14. That's Randy Drumhiller in the 44. Looks like he is, I don't know if he's going to be climbing out of that machine. I didn't see the jack go up, so I'm not sure he's taking tires or fuel. Maybe having an issue behind the wheel at 44. We'll keep an eye on him, keep an update there. But here's a gaggle of cars. We've got Kevin Steele, Ryan Samuelson, and a number 76 machine as well here. These three cars kind of following along in a bit of a train as they work their way through oval 3 and 4 and into that final chicane we talked about. There's the 83 Adam Benefiel. He's currently running P5. He's got Hixenbaugh a few seconds ahead of him, but Benefiel is slowly falling back to the clutches of Lucas Hoytsma there in 6. You can see he's not too far back. I believe he's been lapping a little bit quicker consistently. So we have a bit of a battle for a top 5 as they send it through this chicane. And man, oh man, I just can't get over how airborne these cars are getting. I mean, with how fragile these cars can be, that is a little bit nerve-wracking to see.
It's definitely brave by these drivers, but I mean, this is going to be a cutoff race here. After tonight, there's only 8 cars left in the championship. There's Hoytsma dipping a little bit of a nose there, maybe just trying to get into Benefield's head a little bit, let him know, hey, I'm here. I'm not going anywhere. Keep your mirrors open. But yeah, if you're somebody like Adam Benefield, you really can't afford to start falling back right now. You got to continue to push and push on. So I hope that his tires aren't falling away from him too early, because that is really going to become a problem for him, especially since Hoytsma is right on his tail.
I don't think tires are going to be an issue tonight if iRacing hasn't changed anything drastically. There was kind of an issue with the next-gen tire model at road courses where we weren't really seeing tire fall off. I remember when we went to Sonoma this year. Yeah, when we went to Sonoma, I'm not even kidding, Michael. Nobody took tires the entire race. We finished the race on the tires we started on because this tire model just has a bit of an issue where on the road courses it's not wearing like it should. If anything, sometimes this car gets faster once that percentage starts to drop. So I don't think they've changed anything. I know that listening into a few crew chiefs, they were telling their drivers do not take tires. So I don't think it's tire wear as so much as it may be tire heat. I think that is something they're going to have to keep their eye on. So when they go into the corner, you can see right there, here's Lucas. He's sending it in hot right behind the 83. That's going to heat those tires up for the next half a lap. Now, when they cool back down, they're going to be good as new. But for the next half a lap, if he drives it too hard, they're going to be hot, they're going to be sliding around, and it is kind of a snowballing issue. It compounds. I believe that's Randy Drumhiller exiting the pits right there. The more you slide, the hotter they get, the more you slide. You know what I mean?
No, and that's definitely the last place you want to slide, coming through 1 and 2 right there. You got walls on both sides. It's not a very big, not a very wide piece of track there, and you're going up a blind hill. So that's probably the last place you want to be losing traction. But yeah, no, that is something that I think iRacing needs to take a look at, because these cars should definitely be wearing on their tires. That's kind of baffling for me. But that being said, it makes sense. Exactly how you described it, that makes sense. So if these crew chiefs know something about, not taking tires, or if these tires, really start to come on the longer into the stint when they should be wearing, they're actually coming on a little better, then it's just going to be, like you said, it's all about tire heat management. But you really got to be careful, because you start sliding those tires around the wrong spot, you're going to be into a wall.
And big shout out to producer Carlos Costa for kind of proving our point there. The fast lap for Lucas Hoytsma was a 1:18.4. His last lap on lap 16 was a 1:18.5. So a tenth of a second difference, which I don't even think could be really attributed to tire wear. It might just be fluctuation, and of course with a lap time that long, it's always going to fluctuate a bit. So still running the same lap times they're running at the start of this race. It is pretty crazy, and this battle between these two drivers has gotten pretty good, I would say. Lucas got there. He got to the bumper at the 83, but ever since he's been following along, he's kind of in the catbird seat just waiting for the 83 to make a bobble. And that's not a waiting game I'd want to play, because Adam Benefiel isn't the kind of guy that makes too many mistakes. So if you're waiting for him to get out of your way, you're going to be waiting all day. I think if Lucas wants to get around him, he's going to have to get aggressive with it.
Yeah, he's probably going to have to outbrake him someplace. He's able to get up behind him, but he's not able to get up alongside of him. So he's going to have to plan this move maybe show his nose a couple more times just to get into his head. Maybe get a good exit out of the back chicane here, the bus stop chicane. But yeah, he's going to have to get brave on the brakes if he's going to try to do something. If you're Adam Benefield, you just keep holding your line right now, because the sign of a consistent driver on a road course is being within a tenth or two every single lap. So if his fast lap was an 18.4 and he's rocking 18.5s right now, then that's just consistency right there. Not really much is gonna throw that off. That's gonna be like, oh, he took one turn a tiny bit wider this time than he took last time, but he took the next turn a little tighter. So you're gonna see that fluctuation around the track, like you said. But I mean, staying within a tenth or two of your lap times, that's just consistency right there. That's gonna make Hoytsma's job even harder.
Speaking of consistency, now this is a good battle on track right here, but I do want to kind of shine a light on the battle for the lead, which is still going on. When we checked in on like lap 2, Michael, it was about half a second between them. Well, 18 laps later, it's still half a second between these guys. They are, if you told me that the 96 had a tow hook on that thing and he was just pulling Delaney around the track, I might believe you, because the gap has not changed. I mean, they're just tire track for tire track, line for line, following each other. And man, oh man, it's so close in speed. I think with how we were talking about the importance of pit stops earlier in the race, I think that's going to be John's best bet to take the lead. I think that's going to be most of these drivers' best bet to gain some positions, is going to be just trying to get a better exit out of pit road than the next guy, because when it comes down to raw pace, these guys are, I mean, it's a unstoppable force and an immovable object. These guys are just beat for beat.
Yeah, you're going to be seeing some drivers trying to take an overcut. You're going to see a couple drivers trying to take an undercut. I'm not sure which one is going to be stronger here at the Roval. We'll have to wait and see. But generally what that means, the strategy is you want to go in a lap before or a lap after the driver that you're trying to pass. That way you can get clean air and get a better lap. But I'm not familiar enough with the Roval to know whether the undercut or the overcut is strongest. But to your point, it's almost like they might as well be drafting around Daytona. They're just staying neck and neck right behind each other, like they're just towing each other around. As we see Delaney getting a lot closer that time. He's about 0.3 off, but I think Van der Sande, he's going to pull back out a little bit of a gap here. So, yeah, it's going to be tight. I think this is all going to come down to pit stops and whoever is able to maintain that tire temperature and, honestly, like you said, keep the cars in shape. Who's not going to destroy their undercarriage.
Yeah, and if the fans at home are enjoying this battle, they've got a lot more to look forward to, because I think this battle is going to be a race-long thing. I don't think it's going anywhere. I know I poked fun at John earlier, bringing up his bit of a blunder when he went to the Roval and DQ'd himself, but the thing about John is he has, in a lot of ways, matured on and off the track. He is really developed as a driver. He's got his technique down, and most importantly, he's calmed down. He's not as overly aggressive. He's not as anxious to make a move when it may not be possible. He's a lot more willing to just ride it out and wait and be patient. And he's kind of improved his ability to look at a situation, run a bit of a diagnostic, and say, hey, is this going to be worth it? Is this going to be too big of a risk? Should I make this move? And so as a result, he's become a lot more consistent. He's not involved in very many incidents these days, a lot like Adam Benefield, just one of those drivers who is consistently fast. You don't see too many bobbles out of him anymore. And while he did make that blunder at the Roval last time around, that was the old John. And this is the new John. This is the John that is painfully consistent, as you see him cranking on that wheel behind our leader. Man, oh man, really driving the wheels off this thing. But I think he is more than capable of sticking right with this leader and doing it for the entire race.
Yeah, I think John Delaney is a shark, and he smells blood in the water. You got a replay coming here.
More issues with the 44. I'm wondering if something... I'm wondering if something
he's got
mechanical...
some front right damage.
Yeah. Not sure how that transpired, but you're right. He does have a bit of damage there. And as we said, the toe link is the weakest point on this car, and it looks like he may have broke his.
Yeah, that's unfortunate for him, as we have 4 laps left in this first stage. Once again, we do not have any stage cautions. We are just going to keep going through. We're going to go to the lead here.
John finally gets to the inside, going to the first chicane. Up on that turtle curve, going to get on the throttle just a little bit sooner. New leader, John Delaney. The question is, how does Van de Sant respond? He's going to be right on his bumper going into this next chicane, going on board. This is going to be one heck of a moment if he tries to outbrake him, but it looks like he's going to be content to stay in line. Not going to do anything too crazy, and yeah, that's why these two drivers are up here. This is why they're the class of the field, because they are consistent. They're not the kind of drivers that are going to do something too reckless. So, yeah, new leader, John Delaney. Sorry to cut you off there, Michael, as you were saying.
Yeah, I was just saying that he's like a shark and he smells blood in the water. 2 seconds later, he outbreaks Van de Sant and he's up in the lead. Let's see if we can get the, well, we got a 3-wide multicam going here, but yeah, no, I'm very curious to see if he's going to be able to stretch this out a little bit, because he was sitting in that dirty air behind Van der Zandt. Now that he's got some clean air, he might be able to kind of run away with it a little bit. We've already started to come to some slower lap traffic. That's also going to play into things. You can use these lap cars, especially on road courses, to your advantage, especially if you're the leader. You can kind of use them to block a little bit. Obviously, everybody wants to see those blue flags kind of stay out of the issue, but, you know, it's part of the race. Delaney can definitely, you know, try to use some of this to his advantage. It's playing a chess match, you know.
Yeah, absolutely. It's kind of a game of tactics just as much as it is a race, especially with the way the stages are able to give you some points and kind of help you out in that way. Here we have a battle on the top of the screen. That was the number 16 trying to work his... Whoa, no! John Delaney, our race leader, with a mistake coming out of the chicane. Now, we kind of had that foreshadowed when we were riding on the gyro cam. We saw him get really loose out of that chicane. He was working the steering wheel. And right there, Michael, he just pushed the limits a little bit too hard. Let's take a look at the replay.
He's coming up, he's onto the grass, goes a little wide, and just grabs way too much of that second curb, maybe? Yeah, I think he just got a little too much of the second curb, got on the throttle a little too fast, and that's what brought the rear end around. Lucky for him, though, he was able to save it right down the front stretch, and he is still up in the lead pack.
Now, this is a replay of how he took the lead, going onto the gyro cam. He moved down to the bottom, got it through that chicane, but then back to live here. You can see Alex Van de Sant has extended his lead quite substantially. Now, we got John Delaney down pit road. We have another replay dialed up. I'm hearing we had an issue. The number 6 machine, John Delaney, so this is the same lap as the other incident. He's going to get into the outside. Oh, he broke a toe link. Oh, my goodness.
That is not what you want to see.
No.
That is not what you want to see.
One of the dominant cars of the race. And again, look at how light that was, Michael. I mean, he barely scraped that wall. And it just... Wow, that is crazy. I would not have expected... And, you know, I've heard a lot this week about how fragile the toe links are. I've heard that if you hit one of these non-safer barriers, it's almost guaranteed to snap. But I kind of thought maybe some of these guys were being dramatic. Maybe they were just kind of overstating it. But no, that right there proves that they were not being dramatic. It really is that big of an issue. And that's got to be scary for any of these guys, because we got to make 109 laps around this track. And I don't care how good of a driver you are. I don't care how consistent you are. You're not going to make 109 perfect laps. Everybody's going to slip up at some point. And if your slip up includes just barely grazing the wall, that could be the end of your night.
See Alex Van der Zandt coming around here. Lap 24, he's going to take the green flag for the end of the stint here. Going to stay under green. Yeah, no, you're right. That was barely a brush up against the wall. Like, I can't believe how lightly he touched that. Just, you know, that's that toe link gone. So that's just, I mean, I'm kind of shocked, to be honest with you. I'm a little shocked.
And we are on the final lap of stage 1. It looks like Van de Sant should be able to take this stage. It is his to lose, as he has a few seconds back to Blake Giglio in second place, Bryce Nixonbot in third. But, you know, Michael, one thing I'm wondering, and I could be wrong here, maybe I'm off base again. I don't have a lot of experience driving these cars, especially at the Roval, but with iRacing's accumulative damage that they have now, where everything just kind of continues to stack up over time, I wonder if hitting those curbs really hard weakens the toe link and gets it to a state in which a little tap like that can break it. I wonder if that is kind of how it is. But we do have a driver in the infield. It is John Delaney. Let's bring him up, see in his own words what exactly happened. John Delaney, you got a copy? Well, John, we thought you had the car to win it, and I think you did. But then your toe link said otherwise. What happened, man?
Oh man, I was having a blast actually. It was fun, kind of real Alex down. No, but yeah, I got the lead from him going into the chicane, and I'm like, all right, let's just kind of chill and just ride and log some laps. I hit that bump on the chicane real bad and got my car real loose. Lost the lead, so I'm like, all right, we gotta cool down the tires and try and chase him back down. And then that lap, I just pushed a little too hard going, I think it's turn 6 and 7 there. Pushed a little too hard, hit the wall, and there goes the right front tail. It was gone.
Now, one thing I was kind of questioning, and I talked a little bit to Michael about it, is do you think hitting the curbs really hard and slamming that car down back onto the pavement weakens that toe link and makes it easier to brake when you do finally get into the wall, or does that not matter at all?
I don't know that question. I'm gonna say no, but I mean, you never know. I don't think we can really tell. If we could, it'd be really hard to. But maybe that is the reason why everyone breaks their toe link right there is in those curves real bad. So, and I didn't really think about it that way. But yeah.
Now, obviously, you didn't need to have a good run tonight. You're locked into the next round either way. Is there any particular tracks coming up in the round of 8 that you're looking forward to?
Let's see. Well, yeah, Vegas, Homestead, and Martinsville. Those are all 3 pretty different tracks for sure. Vegas, I enjoy Vegas. It's a pretty cool track. A little bit of multi-group racing going on there too. Homestead, that's going to be a fun one, I think. Yeah, it's going to be very driver dependent, I think, there. And then Martinsville, which is just going to be really nuts. So hopefully we can get ourselves locked in by Homestead, so then that way we can just kind of go have fun at Martinsville and not have to worry about all the cautions and wreckfest there. So yeah.
Absolutely. Now, one last thing, John. Now, I said on the broadcast that the John that DQ'd himself on the incident limit when we went to the Roval before, that was the old John. And I said that this year, this is the new John. This is the consistent John. Totally not going to do anything like that. I need you to say that you did that on purpose so that I don't look like a fool.
You know what, Andre? I did it on purpose.
Thank you. All right, John. Well, thank you for your time. We're sorry that your race came to an end like that. We were really having a lot of fun watching you and Van de Sant go at it. I mean, that was probably one of the best battles I think I've seen at the Roval over such a long course of time there. I mean, you guys were battling for 20 laps consecutively, so it was a lot of fun to watch. We're sorry to see it end that way, but we'll see you next week, and hopefully you'll have a lot of speed.
See you guys. Thank you.
He did it on purpose. That's my story. I'm sticking to it. I'm still right. It's the new John. He wouldn't make these mistakes.
I think that was the pure definition of a caster cruise.
Yeah,
that was just if you opened up a dictionary, it was just a little short clip of that incident right there. I do want to point out real quick while you were talking to John Delaney there, Van der Sant did come into a pit. We see Adam Benefeld is coming into pit right now. Van der Sant did have about a 7-second lead on Blake Giglio. I think that once we start seeing these lead cars pit, I think that 7-second gap that he had is probably going to be even bigger. I think he basically had almost a pit stop in hand or was on his way to building that up. I think Alex Van der Sant was that fast. It'll be interesting to see how he does going through traffic. But I think once we see, he's already up into 5th place here. But I think once we see these leaders come in, we're going to see an even bigger gap from Van der Sant back to 2nd place.
Yeah, that definitely could be. I'm a little bit surprised that Van der Sant pitted when he did, because it seems like you can go a lot further than that on fuel. And again, tires don't matter all that much at these road courses currently. So I don't see a huge advantage at the undercut, but we'll have to wait and see how that plays out. Now, Blake Giglio inheriting the race lead there Bryce Nixonbach currently P2. And the other funny thing I noticed too is that Van de Sant came down pit road right after he won the stage. So stage points don't really matter to him. They do matter to his teammates, of course, over at SBR. So maybe just trying to make sure nobody else got that stage win for the boss man and then coming down pit road.
Yeah, no, that's definitely going to be a team strategy right there. But yeah, I mean, I guess it's kind of hard to tell. We don't know how much fuel they used on that stint, but I mean, yeah, I guess I had a point and now I kind of forgot it. So I'll be back with you in a minute.
Absolutely. Now, the number 29 machine coming down pit road there, you see the number 11, Robert Anderson, getting his car serviced as well. We do see some drivers taking tires, despite the fact that they're not really wearing a whole lot. Giglio's still leading the way. I'm curious to see exactly how far they can go on fuel. Now, when they were designing this next-gen car, I'd heard that they planned on actually giving them less fuel in the tank, and then they wound up going the other way, and the fuel tank's a little bit larger than the old Gen 6 cars. So I would say, given how far the Gen 6 car could go, I would say these guys could probably stretch it to lap 36 or so, maybe possibly even a little bit further. But right there is Van de Sant, the 96 machine, who again has led so many laps, and that's how much of a lead he had. The fact that he could come down pit road and really only drop down to 5th place, he's not even outside of the top 10, 20 seconds back from Blake Giglio. He was out and away once John had that mistake and kind of lost it a little bit there. But pit road getting busy. We're on lap 30. We got 79 to go. Let's take in the sights and sounds of the Charlotte Roval with a Bring the Noise. And we are back with just over 76 to go. Our leader, Blake Giglio, diving down pit road. So, I think our fuel estimate was ballpark there. Michael coming in on lap 33. There's Blake's teammate, Lucas Weitzman. He's coming down pit road. A few drivers which are still holding out. Bryson Hixenbaugh staying out in that 63 car, trying to lead himself a lap there. RJ Root in the number 8 as well. And, of course, Van de Sant, who already pitted now, reclaiming a few of those positions up into third.
Yeah, no, you were spot on with that. You were saying right around lap 30, 33, and we see all these guys coming in. Van der Zandt already up into third place here. If we can, Carlos, I'd like to ride along for a lap here with one of these lead cars. Carlos was noticing something, our producer back upstairs. He's noticing that these cars aren't really going into fifth gear, which I guess there isn't really that long of a straight here, but let's go ahead and ride along here and see if we get up into fifth gear here coming into the bus stop chicane.
Yeah, now Bryson, he was redlining it in fourth, but by the time it would have been time to upshift, he was already braking for the next corner, so he's getting back down into third. Now, this is going to be the next longest run on this track, which is going to be through oval 3 and 4, headed into the next chicane. He's going to come down pit road, but even if he hadn't, he would not have made it to fifth gear. So that's interesting, and I think a lot of these setups are...
Did he get slowed down fast enough? He was coming in hot.
Yeah, I think he was all right. I don't think he got a penalty there, but that is something that I've noticed about this car. Having this 5-speed gearbox, a lot of these tracks are just kind of awkwardly distanced for these cars, and so you don't wind up using all the gears you have. I remember back at Richmond, we had drivers that never even touched fourth gear. They were only up into third. So with this next-gen car, you see a lot of interesting setups when it comes to the gearing ratio, and I would have thought that here at the Roval, that straightaway would be long enough to get up to fifth, but I guess it is advantageous to be up on that chip, to be getting as many revs out of that engine as possible, and I guess if staying in fourth is the best way to do it, and that's what you got to do.
Yeah,
Whoa! Damaris Hickenbottom goes around. Toe link broken in the same spot as Jonathan Delaney.
That's insane. Did he bump the wall just like he did? He's got.
Oh
Yeah.
It's not even turning. It's just wedged up under the bodywork. Now we're gonna go on board with Damaris. Let's see, Michael, if he did hit the wall like you surmised. Coming out of the. Yep. No, it was. Wow.
Did he get I think he might have gotten a love tap from behind. Did we got another angle at that?
Yeah, he might have. Let's. Yeah, we were on board with the
okay, yeah.
So as he comes around the corner, he's going to crest the hill and just a tap. The same thing that got John.
What's funny is I think the 8 almost touched the wall too.
Yeah,
just
came close.
So, yeah, these drivers are really going to have to be careful with these walls. We're seeing that we've already seen, 3 cars already with the broken toe link? 2 on the same spot. The 44, where was the 44 when he hit? Well, were all 3 of them? All 3 of them were there?
No, I think the 44 was actually a little bit sooner in the infield section, but
still,
exactly.
They're going to have to make this track even less as wide as it already is. They're going to have to really make it skinny through the infield there, because if you just brush up on that wall, we've already seen quite a few toe links just go. So that's going to change the whole complexion of this race.
Yeah, it absolutely is. Now, one thing that I want to point out too about that particular section of the track. Whoa, we had a big moment. I'm looking at a replay, not to cut myself off there, but Alex Van de Sant, as he was exiting the infield section, had a lap car get loose in front of him, and if they did not make contact, then the netcode gods are on his side, because they were definitely, at least visually, making contact, and it seemed like Van de Sant was unscathed. So just wanted to point that out. But as I was saying about that part of the track where the toe links are continually breaking, there's that big hill right there that we were talking about, Michael, and you pointed out the elevation change and how difficult that makes it. When they're going down that hill, that car is going to naturally want to swing wide and use that extra momentum to just kind of push out towards that wall. And as we've seen, if you let that happen, it spells disaster.
Yeah, these cars are just set up that when they come over the hill like that, when they crest, they're just going to get a little bit wide, a little bit loose. So it's going to be kind of pick your poison? Do you want to back off a little earlier to try to save yourself, or are you still trying to put in the fastest time that you can?
Ooh. The 96, sorry to cut you off there, Michael. The 96 caught air off that crest right there. The left side tires were off the ground.
Yeah, that's something that you definitely don't want to see. You see it on the curbing, but that was pretty interesting. That's not a spot that you want to catch some air, especially since we've already seen a couple cars lose it right there into the wall.
Yeah, definitely not a place you want to have a mistake. And there's Patrick Mouchet in the 46. I believe he just recently pitted, so going a lap down here, and that is going to put him the first car a lap down. Of course, not very likely to be any Lucky Dog awards, as this should remain green. But we do have a replay loaded up. Let's see what happened. Dalton Mobley. Yeah, that was kind of weird looking, Michael. What do you think was going on there?
Yeah, no, there didn't really seem to be any indication or anything from the camera angle that we had. I don't know if maybe he made contact with the wall a little bit before what we saw there. Something seemed to go wrong in that car, though. I'm not sure what happened. See if we can either maybe get a little more information or a different angle. But yeah, I have no idea where that came from. He just pulled off and called it a day, it looks like.
And again, as we were watching our leader there, every time he comes over that hill, the left side suspension is just bouncing, and it's kicking him up into the air. It is a sight to behold. And I mean, I guess that's what it takes to be fast, but you're playing with fire doing that. If you get into that wall even a little bit. Whoa, big walk up from Patrick Mouchet. That's going to put him through the infield. Now, this is another place where iRacing's rules are a little bit different. So in real life, if you were to miss either of the chicanes, you would have to serve a stop and go. And for that chicane that he missed particularly, you have the option of stopping in that chicane right there where you blew it, or you can continue on to the front stretch and serve the stop and go in the tri-oval where the cars don't go because they're in the chicane. But as far as iRacing is concerned, it just tells you that we have calculated that you've gained this much time by cutting. Give it up anywhere you want. So you could slow down on the straightaway, you could slow down in the corners, anywhere you want. As long as you give up that time, the game will move your black flag and you're good to go.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but it's the same thing for the bus stop chicane at Watkins Glen, isn't it? If you blow the chicane, you have the option to sit there to make up for your stop and go?
Yep, same thing at Watkins Glen in real life. You can do the stop and go right there in the chicane, and it's a little bit easier with Watkins Glen because when you miss that chicane, there's a lot of runoff, and you can get the car woed up. The reason that they have an option to continue around to the tri-oval in real life at this track is just because that's a shorter chicane, and if you miss it, sometimes you go clear through and you'd be stopping on the actual racing surface, which they don't want. So they open it up to the possibility of stopping on the tri-oval, but like you said, at Watkins Glen, you have the same option. It's just easier to stop right there where you missed because there's just a ton of runoff. The chicane, the bus stop's a lot longer. But we do have a yellow flag on the circuit. That is extremely unexpected. We're not sure what happened.
Must be something blocking the track or something, right?
Derek Heitman involved, I'm hearing. Okay, yes, so, yes, I almost forgot about that. Producer pointed it out. So, there is a system in place that the league uses where if the field as a whole, every single driver, accumulates a certain incident count, it will throw a yellow flag. So,
so everybody's incident counts all counted up together, is that what you're saying?
Yes, so basically there's a limit, and I don't think anybody knows the exact number. I think the admins intentionally leave that vague. But there is a limit where all of the drivers together, it counts up their incident points, and if they reach a certain threshold, it goes over. Now, I believe the last time we went to a road course, we did not hit that threshold, which is why we were kind of expecting this to go green all the way through. This time, though, here on lap 39, we have hit that incident limit. I can confirm that looking at the admin chat there. That is what caused this yellow. Now, the interesting thing here is that this may correlate and go back to that final chicane, Michael, where they're dipping their tires into the grass. Every time they do that, they got to be getting a 1X, and we've seen so many drivers doing that. They're probably adding quite a few points to the pile.
Yeah, I'm not sure how far off you have to be to get a 1X there, but I'm sure most of these drivers have gotten at least gotten it at least once or twice. That's for sure. We do see AJ Muselman in the chat and Ann Vandersant. Both of them seem to be Alex Vandersant fans. AJ, I don't think you have to worry too much about Vandersant's lead coming down to the edge. He's pretty much kind of blown this field away so far today. I wouldn't be too worried about it at the moment. But yeah, no, this is definitely something I've never heard of before. So that's quite an interesting thing that they have in here. Now, is there going to be a lucky dog for this?
The rules do apply, yeah. There
Okay.
should be a lucky dog, which I believe will be Patrick Boucher. He was just a lap down when this occurred, so he should be able to go around, get that lap back, and I'm curious to see if we do have anybody coming down pit road. But in the meantime, while Patrick Boucher makes his parade lap around to get his lead lap position back and the rest of these guys pace around, we're going to throw it to a quick break, and we'll be back at the drop of the green. All right, so still just a little ways to go before green lights are on the pace car, but we got a driver in the infield care center, Damara Sickenbottom, again, involved in the incident just prior to this caution coming out. Let's bring him up. For Sickenbottom, you got a copy?
Yes, sir, I do.
Well, Damaris, you are the third driver to break a toe link tonight. It seems to be something that is haunting everybody in the field. And, man, just like we talked about with John, that did not look like much of a hit at all. You barely grazed that wall. How was it from your perspective?
Yeah, man, it shocked me. I mean, I got the wall pretty good, so I thought I'd break that front one since I lit into nose, but got a chance to look at that replay. I broke the rear, which explains why I didn't have any propulsion and couldn't go anywhere. So, I tagged it pretty good. I mean, I kind of felt it coming out of that turn in the short shoot, and I'm sure that's what's getting everybody. So, unfortunately, I tried to limp it back around. Should have just towed, and ended up burning up the engine with all the RPMs, trying to spin it on one wheel. So, yeah, it was a pretty good lick, man. I was trying to avoid that and maybe pick up some free positions throughout the race.
Yeah, very unfortunate incident. Now, what would you say is the most difficult part of this track? Is it right there where everybody's kind of seeming to have those issues, or is there another part of the track that maybe you were fighting with prior to this?
I think everyone's struggling with the braking zones, honestly, man. It's trying to stay off those curbs and avoid wheel hopping, and just getting the car to rotate the way you want to. I think all of us are getting, as you can see, everybody's a little bit stronger in certain places than others. But yeah, all the braking zones seem to be a struggle, especially throughout the run. I found, you're adjusting the brake bias and all that good stuff, trying to get this thing wound up as the tires wear in. So I think that's where you're going to see everybody struggling. That short shoot is especially hectic because you got a few consecutive brake zones back to get on the backside of the oval.
Yeah, definitely something that seems to have been a challenge for a lot of drivers. Now, before we go green, Michael, you got any questions for Damaris?
Yeah, no, if you could just kind of give me that's the first time I've ever seen a caution like that. So they were saying that there's some sort of, you don't have to tell us the number or anything like that, but there's basically a check where the field hits a certain amount of incident points. And that's what brings the caution out. Is that what just happened there?
Yeah, so we have an automated system to simulate full course cautions here at 100% cut. Obviously, because of iRacing's full course caution system doesn't really apply at road courses. So, yeah, we got a few metrics. One's being incident points, and there's a couple other things we have to trigger certain cautions for the whole field. Just to give you that real race simulation, unfortunately, it doesn't really always look the best on the broadcast, but I guess these days, the way NASCAR is throwing cautions, it might. So,
Still better than NASCAR.
I thought it was really interesting when it came out. I thought it was really cool. So.
Yeah, it should throw the stage points are still awarded on 25 and 50, but this should shake up the strategy, right? Tires, fuel mileage, and hopefully make it a little more interesting for you guys up in the booth and the people watching at home.
Absolutely. And hey, real quick, you mentioned tires. What was the tire fall off like out there? I mean, was there any fall off, or was it negligible? What was going on there?
Yeah, I mean, what's less than negligible? There's really no tire fall off. I mean, quite honestly, you're probably faster on 80 lap tires than your own freshies. So even with the tire pressures coming down, and that's something iRacing has struggled with quite a bit in the last couple seasons. So hopefully we'll get some kind of different tire compound for road courses on the oval. The ovals are great, man. You got 2 seconds fall.
Mars Hickenbottom out of the booth as we have a dramatic restart there, Michael. That 16 got quite a jump.
Yeah, no, the leader is definitely going to have an advantage coming through that final chicane. He can jump when he wants to jump, and he can kind of close the field up a little bit too. So it really just it's advantage to leader every single time you come through that restart. You see Giglio just getting out there. He's already got what, like a 1.4, 1.5 second lead there. Have a replay here. We see a couple cars in the back coming together. What's going on here? Oh, we see the 77. Oh. That was a hard hit.
Well, they call it the heartburn turn for a reason. And I guess Dalton just found out why.
Dalton Mobley. Yeah, no, that didn't look like a fun hit. I'm not sure what happened there. Maybe it was just cold tires. He just didn't get them warmed up. He jumped on them too quickly or something. I'm not sure what happened there. But we see the P4 get spun around there by O'Brien.
Oh my goodness, and they're going to go 4 wide, more contact. Sean's not done with him. I'm going to give that the Sean O'Brien Jr. mug moment of the race. That was insane. 4 wide contact several times. It looks like the 83 out of Metafield just barely slipping through. Let's take another look at this. So keep your eye on that number 65. Remember, he was coming into this race 8 under the cut line, just getting into the quarter panel of the 54 of Hutchison.
And they're right there. Hutchison kind of got into him. He had the space. He gave him room. He was on the inside hugging that curbing. He gave him room to the middle there. I think Hutchison kind of came down on him.
Yeah, it's hard to credit blame there for either driver. I mean, you've got a lot of drivers trying to pile into this chicane, and I definitely don't think it was intentional on anybody's part.
No. But I don't mean to blame anybody.
Right. But I think you're right. It might have been that Hutchison just didn't know he was down there. He kind of crowded him a little bit, and cars are that little bit of contact, that slight nudge was all it took. So unfortunate, but sometimes when you got 30 cars trying to pile into a chicane, I'm hearing on the driver radio there's a bit of an issue somewhere on the track. Somebody spun out, but not quite able to identify it. There it is right there. It is, I can't quite make out the number. Let's take a look at the 3-wide TV replay. Nolan Hodgson coming out of the infield, cresting this hill into the oval portion. He's right behind Kevin Steele, and just getting a little bit loose. Too much beans, as Carlos says. And,
there's a elevation change there. You're coming down the hill, then you come up onto the banking, give it a little bit too much beans, and that's going to send you around. You got to be real careful right there.
Yeah, it's a trouble spot. That whole section, whether it's the wall, the hill, the merging back onto the oval, it is a tough part of the track. But I mean, we say that, but then we look at this track design, Michael, and I don't think there's an easy part on this track other than maybe the straightaway.
Yeah, I'm going to have to agree with you there. This track is just such a challenge. Even just the regular oval, it's not an easy track. I think it's a great track. I think they built it extremely well, but it's such a challenge for these drivers.
We saw on screen right there the number 8 merging back into the oval section. Every driver that we've seen go through there, they're cutting it so close to that tire barrier, right on the apex, trying to get as close to it as possible before they swing out into the oval turn. It is nerve-wracking every time I see it, because I know that eventually somebody's going to cut it a little too close, and then we may have a car facing the wrong direction. But so far, most drivers have been able to avoid that fate. Number 8 kind of riding around here in P4. He's got a decent gap back to Hixenbaugh in 5th. Van de Sant currently sitting 3rd. Blake Giglio, Lucas Hoytsma 1 and 2. Now, Blake Giglio did stay out, like you pointed out there, Michael. He was one of the few drivers to not pit, so he doesn't have a tire disadvantage necessarily. We've seen time and time again that tires don't matter a whole lot. But what he does have is a fuel disadvantage. So if this race goes green all the way, and we come down to a situation where a lot of these drivers can make it to the green, there may be 2-3 laps to the good. Well, Blake is 6 or 7 laps shorter than the rest of these guys. So he may not be good. He's looking at a potential extra pit stop if this stays green all the way, which is not going to be ideal. Now, luckily for him, with the automated system that Damaris was talking about, it is not impossible to get a caution. And given the fact that we reached the incident limit on about lap 39, well, doing some quick math in my head, that tells me somewhere around lap 80, we're going to hit it again if they continue at this rate. Maybe a little bit later, there's going to be some attrition. There is less cars on the track, so you factor that in. Maybe lap 85, lap 90, which is not far from the end of this race. And if we got to restart around that time, it is going to be nothing short of chaotic.
Yeah, if we get a late caution, that's going to throw caution to the wind. Everybody's going to be coming down pit road. It's going to throw everybody's strategies off. But yeah, the only thing that could possibly help Giglio, and I don't think it's going to, but some of those laps, he did have about 6 or 7 laps under caution. Maybe not that many, but he did have a few laps under caution. But it's still, the fuel saving is not going to be there like he would need it to be. He's going to have to make a decision later on in this race, come down under green flags. And the only thing that can really help him out here is the fact that the draft isn't as strong as some places that we've been, where if you come down by yourself, you don't have anybody to draft with, you're out of luck. But lucky for him, he's got options, but his options are definitely going to close up the closer and closer we get to the end of this race.
That is absolutely true. And another thing that I'm kind of thinking about too is how much can he save? Like if he wants to, how much can he save? Because at a road course, you have a lot more opportunity to save than you do at an oval. Like if we were at regular Charlotte, I'd say if he saved for an entire run, maybe he gets 2 extra laps out of that thing. But at a road course, especially one with all these slow corners that we see here at the Roval, all it takes is letting off a little bit sooner, coasting a little bit more, getting on the throttle a little bit later after the exit. And if you do that in every single corner, that's going to just compound. It's like compounding interest. It just stacks up, and you're going to be saving fuel like crazy. And so you could, theoretically, if you went into hyper saving mode, save a few gallons of gas and get yourself a solid few extra laps. But thing is, number one, is it worth it? And number two, how much can you do that before these guys catch him? I mean, you got Hoytsma and Van de Sant battling right now, and they're 5 seconds back, so he's got a comfortable lead. But Van de Sant has proven that he is the fastest car in the field, time and time again. He's got the fast lap so far for the race, one of the few drivers to get down to a 117, I believe. And right now, what's holding him up is Lucas Hoytsma. That is Blake's teammate. And you know that Blake is going to be asking Lucas, hey, hold him up. Get this guy behind me. Keep him back there. And so Lucas is playing defense right now for his teammate. He is doing everything he can to keep Van de Sant in his rearview mirror. But once Van de Sant makes this pass, if he makes the pass, he's got the speed to catch up. And if Blake starts saving, well, then he definitely has the speed to get there.
Yeah, no, you hit it right on the head once again. You can save so much fuel on a road course compared to an oval, just because you can lift and coast through each corner. You can push your braking zone a little bit further by doing so, and you're still carrying almost the same amount of speed, so you're not losing that much time. He's got his teammate behind him to kind of hold up Van der Zandt. It's tough to get a pass done on this track, as we've seen all night long, especially with these leaders. I mean, right now, if he's able to really coast and save a little bit of gas, it could really help him, but I don't think he's going to be able to save enough to make up for the fact that everybody else came in and he stayed out.
I'd have to agree. Now, I'm a little bit surprised that Van der Zandt actually lost some ground that last lap. You can see the gap extended by a few tenths as they're both working their way into this first chicane here. It seems like Van der Zandt may be overheating his tires, Michael, because what he does is he closes in, he gets a good run, and then he loses it. And so I think when he's getting that run and he's closing in, he's kind of burning up those tires. But we have a two-car incident on 3-wide TV replay. It's Adam Benefield, looks like, and Cameron Stone. They're going into this chicane too wide. That's never ideal. And the 83 just hooks himself. Cameron Stone trying to minimize the damage there, swinging wide. Cameron coming on the radio and apologizing. He said he hit the curb. Let's go on board to see exactly what happened from his perspective. Now, this is already a pretty bold lunge. Oh, no! Van der Zandt in turn 3, I believe. I'm going to take a look at a replay here. Yeah, just hit that curb and...
I think he was able to save it from too much damage there, but yeah, no, that is the last curb you want to hit. He comes down on the inside, just gets a little too close to that curb, jumps it. He does get into the Hoytsma, but Hoytsma seems to be able to save it. Oh, that's not what Van der Zandt wanted.
Yeah, and you know, you're exactly right, Michael. That's one of the few curbs on this track I think that you just don't want to hit at all. Even if you're a really brave driver, that corner is so tight that if your front tires are not touching the pavement at all times, you're not going to make that corner. And we do have another broken toe link, Wayne Grassi. So what is that, number 4 for the night?
Yeah, this is not looking good for the manufacturer of that toe link. These cars are just barely touching these walls, and they're just breaking down left and right here. They're dropping like flies. Blake Giglio on the last lap of stage 2. Do want to point that out. It is lap 50. So if Blake Giglio is able to hold on to that 7-second lead, he will be the stage winner for stage 2.
So he will get himself some stage points. And again, he was one of the drivers that was pretty good in points coming into this race. He wasn't locked in by any means, but he can get the stage win. That's going to be a big help.
Yeah, but it's going to be, that was a tough incident between Cam Stone and Adam Benefield. Both drivers are on the cusp of being out of the top 8. They both really need big placements tonight, if not wins. So unfortunate for Stone hitting that curb and sliding into Benefield. Unfortunate for Benefield for just being in the wrong place at the wrong time. Van der Zandt, though, does look like he was able to save it, and even though he's about 15 seconds back, we know he's got the pace to kind of claw back here, but should see Blake Giglio taking the lead here.
And it is going to be Blake Giglio winning stage 2. And, you know, going back to that incident between Kim and Adam, all the credit to Adam. He saw that lunge coming from the 57, and he gave him a lot of room. I mean, he did really everything that he was supposed to do as a driver in that situation. It was just once Cam got into that curb, it kind of shot him straight forward right into the quarter panel of the 83 machine, and that just... Obviously, being such a low-speed corner, it was a lazy spin, not a whole lot of damage, but a lot of time lost. So both those drivers, 6 and 7 respectively, again, these guys are in a must-win. They're not in a position where they can just finish 2nd or 3rd and say, yeah, you know, it was a good points day. No, they've got to go out there, they've got to win. So you're going to see Cam Stone and Adam Benefield driving aggressively like that. You're going to see them really on a bit of a warpath. You know, Cameron Stone told me before the race, he's like, yeah, I'm on a warpath tonight. Those were his words. And well, he definitely is, but you know, you also got to be wary of your own self, and that incident cost himself some time.
Yeah, no, it definitely cost himself. It cost Adam. I don't think it was anything malicious. I think he just, you know, got a little bit got a little bit too brave on the brakes, dove in a little bit late. You know, as much as Benefield tried to give him space, Benefield had every right to that corner. So, yeah, definitely just a tough incident between the two of them, really trying to, you know, push.
Now, Adam Benefield closing back in on the bumper of Cameron Stone. You know, as much as I'd love to play up some drama here and put on my commentator hat and say, oh yeah, you know, he's going to do something crazy, he's going to retaliate. No, he didn't. He just went around him on the bottom. I think Cam knew that he was faster, and Cam moved up the high line. And, you know, that's just a show of respect. Cam didn't mean to have that incident happen. Like you said, Michael, there was nothing malicious there. So when Adam got back up to him, I should say, he just let him have it, which is, again, a sign of respect. Very good play there. We have the foot cam again, just kind of showing the inputs there as he's shifting and getting back into the oval section. And I'm noticing, Michael, they're really pedaling the throttle coming out of these corners too. They're trying to feel out almost the rear tires and see when they can finally mash it and get as much grip as possible. And then, of course, downshifting, tapping the throttle accordingly, getting into the chicane there, and then right back out. Pretty steady throttle on exit. He didn't feather it out of the chicane. It tends to be the tighter corners that he's doing it.
Yeah, these cars don't have the most downforce. They are rear-wheel drive, obviously, so you have to be very careful as we see the 63 touching the wall there. Got to be careful because we've seen a couple toe links break. Tap slider.
Oh, no! He got into the outside wall. Is that going to be a toe link?
Yeah, that's a little touch there. But yeah, no, as we watch Cam Stone, his footwork on those pedals there, yeah, you got to really just kind of feel the throttle out before you really put your foot down, because the last thing you want to do, especially coming out of an elevation change on one of these corners or coming off of a curb, is another place that we saw can happen very easily. You don't want to slam the throttle, because the second those wheels grip, it's going to spin you right around, and that's why you kind of see him just kind of easing on, you know, blipping the throttle to shift up and shift down, but just kind of easing on until he feels that grip come in. Then you can really get on it.
Now, as we were riding on board with Cam, we did see him get into the outside wall in the trial, and he did not break a toe link. The car looks fine. So that is interesting to see, and that tells me, Michael, that you can get away with scraping the safer barrier that is on the oval portion of the track. It seems to be that harder concrete barrier in the infield that's breaking these toe links like they're nothing.
That is definitely a probability. But the other thing, the point that you've brought up earlier, is the damage compiling, and you know, every time you hit something, it just adds a tiny little bit more and a tiny little bit more, and eventually it just adds up and adds up and adds up. So what we were kind of theorizing earlier with the curbs, you know, if you hit these curbs a little too hard and then you tap the wall, that's going to make that toe link break. You know, you hit that safer barrier. Sure, it's the safer barrier. It's nowhere near as hard as the inside concrete walls, but you hit it once or twice, maybe that's going to add on to your damage there, and then the next thing you know, you tap it a little bit too hard, or you tap the concrete wall, and that's all that you needed. There goes the toe link.
Yeah, I mean, even if you get away with hitting that inside barrier a time or two, and it is a little bit more forgiving than the concrete barrier, you're exactly right. You're only going to tempt fate for so long. You're only going to get away with it so many times before it finally just gives way. And with how this car is, I could see that happening very easily. So, you know, Cam got away with it that time. You got to be careful moving forward. And, as we take a look at the field right now, just kind of looking at the separation, Blake Giglio 7 seconds ahead of Lucas Weitzman now. Bryson Hickson-Bott 8 seconds back. RJ Root is in 4th. He's about 8 seconds back. Then you've got Alex Van de Sant 15 seconds back after his incident, his spin, and not really gaining back a lot of that time that he lost.
I think we just missed an incident there. I think Medeiros just spun around. We caught it right as I think we just went away. Do we got a replay for that? Yeah, I thought I saw something right in the background. I don't mean to cut you off there. We'll see him coming loose here, and is he able to keep it out of the wall? He's able to keep it out of the wall, so it shouldn't be too bad there. But he did?
He tapped it on exit. That's what got him loose. He hit the quarter panel on that exit wall.
Did he break a toe link?
No, I don't think he. Oh, Kevin Steele getting a little bit greedy on exit there. He's gonna slide it just half a lap ago or so. So man, oh man, it seems like almost. I feel like there's some fatigue setting in here, Michael. We didn't see a lot of incidents at the beginning of this race. We saw a lot of very consistent fast driving. Now, 56 laps in, we're seeing mistakes left and right. You think these drivers are starting to maybe falter under the fatigue of these long runs?
Yeah, I mean, they're definitely, these drivers can definitely handle a road course. There's no question about whether or not they can drive this. But being that they're used to the ovals, you know, every weekend except for a few times a year, these road courses do kind of wear on your mind a little differently because you're constantly having to plan ahead for the next braking zone, the next apex, what's going on in front of you, what's going on behind you. It's the same thing that they deal with every single race. It's just compounded with the fact that, you know, there's elevation changes, there's, you know, left turns, right turns all over the place. There's 16 turns that they have to memorize and get down perfectly for 109 laps. Yeah, there's just going to be so much more mental wear and tear that they would already have to deal with, but I just feel like it's more compounded this evening.
Absolutely, and especially when it comes to force feedback settings. That's something I always think about whenever they come to road courses, because when you're on an oval and you're pretty much only turning left with maybe a little bit of counter steering here and there, you can tend to have your force feedback set a little bit higher. And a lot of drivers do have their force feedback set pretty high because they want to feel every intricacy of the track. They want to feel every bump, every little pebble that they drive over. And the best way to do that is to have that force feedback cranked up and have it strong so you can feel everything. But then you come to a road course, and it's a workout with a high force feedback setting because you're turning left, you're turning right. You're so focused on the race. A lot of times you're gripping the wheel a little bit tighter because you're focusing more. And just gripping the wheel harder and being focused, that's going to wear you out enough as it is, let alone when you got this wheel juking back and forth both directions, force feedback trying to send you every which way. I got to wonder if maybe some of these drivers don't have to change some of their wheel settings and dial it in to be a little bit more accommodating for road courses.
Yeah, you think that might be the case, but honestly, you probably want to have it a little bit higher on a road course because that force feedback is just going to give you so much more attention to detail, and you're going to feel the car slipping out on you, so you're going to be able to catch it a little bit quicker. Whereas if you start dialing back the force feedback, it's going to become a little bit more dull. Yeah, sure, you're going to get tired quicker. You're not going to be used to it as you would, as you said, on a oval. It's going to be a lot more intense, but it's going to be a give and take. You kind of want, as we see a couple cars coming down pit lane, you kind of want to keep it, you know, as much as you can handle throughout the race, because that's the best way on these road courses to like really feel the rear end of your car.
Yeah, you know, I could definitely see your point there. I think me personally, just because I wouldn't want to wear myself out, I might be tempted to go to a lesser force feedback, but you're right. I think there's an advantage to be had in feeling every little bump on the road and having that additional information to work with. So if you can deal with it, if you're muscle man and you can go out there and deal with a high force feedback, you could definitely give yourself an edge over the rest of the guys. But
to your point, I just want to quickly say, to your point, yeah, if you are getting way too tired and you dial back those force feedback numbers, that's going to give you an advantage later on in the race. You're going to be a little less tired physically. So to your point, you're not wrong. You're right as well. It's kind of like a gray area.
Yeah, it's kind of up to the driver, I suppose, what they prefer, what they value, I reckon. But we did see pit road get pretty busy a couple laps ago. Carlos kind of had the camera on pit road there, and we saw a few drivers make their way down. Our leaders have yet to pit. Blake Giglio, Bryson Nixonbaugh, Lucas Hoytsma is 9 seconds back. RJ Root in 4th. I don't believe any of those guys have pitted, as well as Van Desant, Benefiel. But a few of these guys further back, they did come down pit road. And it does make sense. We're getting close to that point. I would say the majority of drivers pitted anywhere between lap 30 and 33 on that initial green flag run. We did have that caution, which a few drivers did pit under. That was closer to lap 40, I believe 39 or 40. So theoretically, they could stretch this out to lap 67, lap 70 if they really wanted to with the help of that caution that we had, if they pitted. But I don't think we're going to see that. I think we're going to see a few drivers come down kind of on schedule. Even though tires don't really matter, the undercut's not really going to help. It just seems like that's the distance that they've been wanting to run. As we approach lap 60, though, it will be 49 laps to go, so we are well past halfway, actually. Getting into the tail end of this event, we're going to take in the sights and sounds one more time here at Charlotte with a Bring the Noise. As Blake Giglio has a bit of a moment there in the trial, getting a bit sideways, having to counter steer, we are back, bringing the action to your TVs and computers here on lap 62. Leaders still have yet to pit here, Michael. Now, we were talking a little bit during the break there about how with everybody pitting a little bit earlier than really they necessarily have to, that's really helping Blake Giglio, who is a little bit off schedule. He does have a little bit less fuel than the rest of these guys due to staying out under the last caution on lap 39. But if they come down the pit road when we think that they will, that should actually get them right back on schedule.
Yeah, we were kind of talking about how Blake would be at a disadvantage, but along with the fact that he has a 12-second lead, the 12-second gap back to RJ Root, he's been able to kind of coast in places. We would assume that he's been trying to save gas and fuel a little bit. But yeah, no, this is definitely starting to really work into his favor. The fastest man that we know on the track is Van der Zandt. He's back in 4th place, about 15 seconds back. So even if Giglio was to pit now, Van der Zandt would still have to pit. So he's in a great spot right now to really just be in control of this race as we come towards the later half of this race and getting towards almost the end here.
Yeah, we are getting through this race again, lap 63 out of 109, and the less cautions we have, the quicker it winds down. Here's a nice battle on the screen right there. Number 6 machine, I believe, is going to be leading the way in front of RJ Root. Now, this is actually a lap car trying to fend off RJ. The first car a lap down, I believe. No, it's not actually Scrumeta. Was the first car lap down. Now it's Matt Long in the 97. So a lot of traffic for these guys to deal with. And, you're going to see that. Road courses, they're long tracks, of course. There's a lot of distance to cover. So they're not really bunched up. But we got a big field tonight. 33 cars started this race. Only a few have DNF'd so far. And we've been green for so long that traffic has been a bit of a factor. And this is one of those tracks that we've talked about how narrow it is and how difficult it is to drive on your own. It's only more difficult when you factor in lap traffic and trying to figure out the best way to get around them. Because really, while this track does have some decent overtaking zones, it's still not an easy thing to do, to navigate traffic. And these guys have done a great job of it. But I don't know, Michael, if you were a driver here on the Roval, is there a part of the track where you'd prefer to reach some of these lap cars and a part maybe where you wouldn't?
Me personally, I'd like to see him coming into the back straight and get the move done coming into the back chicane, just because that's going to give you the best. You'll get the best run out of, which turn is that? Hold on, I got my track map up. Give me one moment. So I would say I would probably want to see lap traffic coming out of turn 8. I'd want to draft them down the oval in turn 9, and then try, if I don't get the pass done through that back straight, I would want to make the pass probably into the bus stop chicane, turn 10, outbrake them. That being said, these cars aren't really the easiest to maneuver on these road courses, and once you get into dirty air, they definitely, we see the 8 car tapping that cement wall there. You got to be careful. Once you get into the dirty air, it makes it a lot harder. You can get up to the back of a car, but that doesn't necessarily mean that even though you might be a little bit faster than them, that you're in that dirty air. That's going to slow you down, so you might not have the advantage to get around them. So, yeah, it's tough to really decide. But I think at the end, I would want to get the move done in one of the chicanes. I'd want to outbrake somebody and just take the inside, kind of like what we saw Cameron Stone try earlier on Adam Benefield, just a little closer and a little cleaner.
Yeah, maybe just a little bit cleaner. I think you're right. I think going into the chicanes is a pretty viable passing opportunity for lap traffic and for position. Me personally, I would want to catch him coming back out onto the oval portion and ideally get around them while we're still on the relatively straight part of the track before we get to the chicane. But we got Ralph Hutchison coming down pit road. So this is really going to start, I believe, our second green flag pitting sequence, as we've already got a few drivers on pit road and Ralph now joining them. Here comes, I believe that is Adam Benefield, or maybe Kevin Steele. I just see a gray roof. Sean O'Brien Jr., I was wrong in both guesses. Commentators, man, sometimes we're not great at our job. Sean O'Brien Jr. coming in pit road and getting that car fixed up. Sean, of course, had that restart pretty solid. He was up there in the top 5, and he needs a good run. He came into this race 8 points behind the cut line, so if he just had a good points day, he has the potential to move forward, but he did get involved in that bit of a scuffle through the chicane, the same place we saw Cam Stone and Adam Benefield get together. And ever since then, he's not really been able to gain that time back. So maybe trying to do something on strategy here, coming down before these other guys. And he's dropping down the grid now, but he should cycle out a little bit further up. Whoa!
Yeah, see the 76 getting a little loose here. He's going to have to hold on and let these 2 cars go by. I'm going to have to go ahead and disagree with you, Andre. I think you are great at your job. I think you handle it very well, and sometimes it's just hard to tell different liveries apart from each other. So I definitely disagree with you there. But that being said, yeah, it's going to be tough. We know Dustin Hall, he's not here tonight. We're pretty much guaranteed that he's out. Adam Benefield, Cameron Stone, we know that they've been fighting tooth and nail, but they're both, while they're both in the top 10, they're a little too far back to really, put a bet on them at this point. Sean O'Brien is the closest to the cut line, and he's having a decent race here. He's a lap down right now, just came through the pits, but I mean, the one thing that's really got to be, the dagger, or the thorn in his side is the fact that second place RJ Root is the man that he needs to pass to get up into the playoffs to continue. So that's really going to hurt him, seeing RJ Root having the strong run that he's having.
Yeah, that's definitely not helping his playoff efforts to have the one guy that he needed to do better than up there running inside the top 5 while Sean's had a few issues. Now, Sean's got a fast car, and he's shown quite a bit of pace tonight. It's just that luck hasn't necessarily been on his side, and some things have gone sideways. So we'll see if he can stage a bit of a recovery, but so far for the number 8, RJ Root, he's been doing exactly what he needs to do tonight. He's just been consistent. He's been fast. He's got himself some stage points. I believe he was in the top 10 for stage 2. I'm not entirely certain about stage 1.
I think I'm pretty sure he might have been in the top 5 for stage 2.
Yeah, I think you're right. He was pretty far up there. So getting a lot of points in that number 8 car, which is exactly what he needs to be doing. Leading the way currently as Blake Giglio did come down pit road on lap 66 there, got his car serviced, and he's out and away already. Lucas Hoytsma, Alex Van de Sant, RJ Root, Adam Benefield, Bryce Nixon-Baugh, Cam Stone, these guys all have yet to pit. So 6 drivers in front of Giglio. We'll see exactly where he cycles out. And I got to point out, Adam Benefield, after that incident, yes, he's gained a few positions by virtue of the cars ahead pitting, but even before that, he actually clawed his way up the running order by about 2 or 3 positions, passing entirely legitimate under green. So that 83 seems to be coming to life late in this race.
Yeah, no, this is definitely the time that it needs to come to life too. He's pushing towards the front here. He's got some fast cars in front of him. I'm not sure, has Adam Benefield pitted? When was the last time he pitted, do we know?
I believe he pitted on the caution on lap 39, so he still has yet to come down pit road, just like Hoytsma, Nixon-Baugh, Van de Sant, all those guys. But we do have somebody coming down pit road right there. I believe that is Patrick Mouchet. But yeah, these guys all have yet to pit, so they're kind of on equal footing right now, and curious to see where he cycles out.
Yeah, no, this is definitely going to be very close for him. He's up in the top 4 right now. We know he needs a win to get in. So this is definitely, he's close. He's within striking distance. We'll see if he's able to, make something happen towards the end of this race. Right now, just a little bit too far away, especially with the fact that he still needs to take one more pit stop.
Travis Grumeda coming down pit road. There goes the number 46, Mouchet, working his way that hard left-hand turn. And again, just such an unorthodox pit exit. It's so strange to see them make a turn like that before they even get to the track. Here comes Grumeda following.
Did we have an incident with RJ Root? Do we know where RJ? Can we get a check on RJ Root real quick? Van der Sant and Hoytsma passed him, and it looks like he's still pushing. I think Root had an issue. Do we have a replay there?
I think you're right. Something happened to him. It could have just been something as simple as getting loose, but
yeah.
Hoytsma and Van de Sant getting around him is definitely unexpected. He was up there leading the way and then lost some position. So we'll try and identify that, and in the meantime, we'll just follow along with him and see exactly what's going on. He's currently behind Scrumeda, who is a lap down. Here's a 3-wide TV replay. Something must have happened. So we're coming into the...
Oh, go ahead.
No, I was going to say we're coming into the backstretch chicane, and ooh, high side of the car a little bit too much, and when it landed and shifted that weight, he got way tight, sliding out to that outside wall, and just had to get on the brakes a little bit.
Yeah, just happened to see him coming down the timing board, and I thought maybe he was dumping into the pits, but the pit never came up for him, so I was wondering what happened there. Yeah, you get high-sided on those curbs. I've seen 1 or 2 cars get a little high like that too, but he's lucky to have kept that one out of the wall.
Yeah, that could have been a lot worse, especially because we've seen the number 8 get into the wall. Not just the safer barrier, but we've seen him scrape that concrete barrier. You pointed out, I believe it was lap 62, I think you pointed out he scraped that concrete barrier, which it doesn't take much. We've seen these cars break like they're made out of feathers before, and so he's already got 1 knock on that wall under his belt, and if he had hit the wall right there, that could have been his night over. So very lucky and a great effort by him to keep out the wall.
You're going to see a nice battle here between Blake Giglio and Cameron Stone. Cameron Stone had a light little lock up there momentarily, but I don't think it really affected him too much. Cameron Stone is trying to keep Giglio out at bay. Giglio is just all over his rear bumper here, coming through turns 4 and down the straight into turn 5. Coming into 6 here, and then through 7 onto the back straight, and 8 and 9. I think I got my turns a little confused there. I apologize. I might have been a turn or two back, but yeah, no, this is going to be a great battle between the two of them as they come into the back, the bus stop chicane here on the back straight.
And this is where the tire situation gets frustrating for a driver like Blake. Now, you got to think, Cameron Stone pitted on lap 39. That was a long time ago. Blake just pitted. He's on massively fresher tires. He should be blowing Cameron Stone out of the water, but because the tire wear is pretty much non-existent here, a car that pitted 40 some odd laps ago is just as competitive. So Blake has to try to get around a car that is essentially at no disadvantage, or just wait for him to come down pit road. And so it's tough. You know, usually you come down pit road and the guys in front of you have that disadvantage. It's easy to get around them, easy to pass. Not here.
Yeah, no, that's definitely not going to be an easy place to pass here. He's going to be losing some time behind Cameron Stone here. Cameron has yet to pit, so we know that he's going to have to come into the pits at some point. But, I mean, you don't want to be losing time if you're Blake Iglio, especially seeing Van der Zand out front again. You definitely want to get around him as quickly as you can and try to get into some clean air, because right now it's just ticking off second after second. Yeah, sure, Cameron Stone is not slow at all, but if you're Blake Iglio and you've been out front, 8 seconds, 9 seconds, 10 seconds in the lead, running in fresh air, this has definitely got to be frustrating for you.
Now, I found that onboard shot really interesting. We saw that Cameron Stone took a much wider exit on the chicane, and it was actually a lot faster doing that. Blake Giglio, who we're riding on board with, took a shallow exit. He stayed hugging that curb and lost about a tenth of a second or two for it. And oh, big wiggle there. That is the second or third time I've seen him do that, Michael. And again, playing with fire. You do not want to be getting into that wall.
No, you definitely don't. I'm not sure if when that car comes off of that second curbing there in the last chicane, it just kind of unsettles a little bit. Maybe he's jumping on the gas, getting a little too, goosing it a little too quickly, but you really got to be careful there, especially, this close. We're starting to really count down towards the end. We got, 28 plus 9. So yeah, we're under 40 laps here in the 30s. You really, really, really got to start, paying attention to every single braking zone. Obviously, you need to do that throughout the race, but now is when it really starts to count.
Yeah, definitely. As we get closer to the end, it's gonna get really interesting, because these guys are gonna be driving hard, especially drivers like Cameron Stone, who they have to win, right? And so let me kind of work. Oh no, Cameron Stone getting a little bit loose there. I think he kept it off the wall, but he is gonna concede that position to Blake Giglio. But as I was saying, let's put ourselves in the shoes of Cameron Stone and understand why he's racing Blake so hard. So right now, Cameron Stone may not have the car to win. And if it stays green, he's not really going to be close enough to the leaders to try to make anything happen. But anything can happen. We could get another yellow flag. We could hit that incident limit, or one of the other qualifiers for a caution that Damaris had mentioned could potentially activate. Now we've got a field that's bunched up. And we have a bunch of cars that don't necessarily need to pit for tires, which means that they're going to stay bunched up. Wherever you run on the track is pretty much where you're going to restart. If Cam can restart in the top 5, he's got a shot, right? Even if he's not the fastest car. Look at the real-life Xfinity race today here at the Roval. AJ Allmendinger was not the fastest car in that race. In fact, I'd say he was probably the 3rd fastest car in that race. I think Ty Gibbs and I don't think who else was up there. I think it was Noah Gragson. Were probably a little bit quicker than him, but those drivers had issues. They had misfortunes. They made bobbles, and it was enough for AJ to get around him and hold him off, and he walked away with the win. That's exactly what Cameron Stone needs to do tonight to keep his playoffs alive. So even if he's a little bit further back now and things are looking grim, you can't just throw your hands up and say, well, I'm done, I give up, because you never know. At any given second, the tides could turn.
Yeah, no, I completely agree with you. The one thing I would say about Cam Stone is he really needs to stop taking so much curb there on the back chicane. That's, 2 or 3 laps in a row now that he's really gotten high on there and almost thrown himself into the inside wall there. So he's got to be careful. We don't know how fragile these toe leagues are really. I mean, we know that they're fragile, but we don't know how much damage they're taking from these curbs. These cars don't usually see curbs like this as often as, a Porsche or a Ferrari or a normal road car would. So these cars aren't necessarily going to be able to handle that stress as much as another car would. It's going to be very stressful for him from here on out. He really needs some of these cars ahead of him, like you said, to kind of make some mistakes. We've already seen a couple cars go out with the tow links, so maybe somebody forgets the pit and runs out of gas. Maybe we get a caution from the incident count. Maybe, like you said, somebody gets a little loose. But right now, Cameron Stone needs to keep his head down, stay out of trouble, put in some solid laps, and kind of hope for a miracle.
Brandon Pierce coming out onto the track here, trying to merge into the infield portion of the track. Kind of a unique paint scheme. I almost didn't recognize him. Brandon Pierce usually runs unique colors that he doesn't see a lot of other cars running, a lot of neon colors, and today he's running a blue and yellow scheme, which is kind of uncharacteristic, so interesting to see there. But pit road getting busy as the final holdouts come down pit road. They could not stretch it any further, and they did stretch it. Let's do some math. So Bryson Nixonbaugh, he pitted on lap 39. So 75 minus 39. Let me punch that into a calculator because I'm terrible at head math. He went 36 laps on a tank of gas. That is pretty impressive, especially given that in the first stint, we saw a lot of drivers come down on lap 30. So that tells me that, number one, those guys came down really soon. They could have stayed out a lot longer. And number two, if any driver gets off sequence, if you're a Blake Giglio right now, who pitted almost 10 laps ago now, you may be banking on a caution to get back on sequence, because I really thought Blake was going to get back in sequence, that some of these guys were going to take that short pit strategy again, but they didn't. They changed it up. They took the long run, and that was exactly what Blake needed them to not do, as Van de Sant stretched it even a little bit further. Forget going 36 laps. Alex Van de Sant is going to go 37 coming down to his pit stall.
Seeing a couple people in the chat wanting to talk to RJ Root. Got Jedi Messiah saying that they want to hear his thoughts on being the cutoff and having a heck of a race. Jonathan Delaney, who we spoke to earlier, is also interested in that. Somebody else wants to talk. Oh, the Cup Series wants to talk to Sean O'Brien. So, yeah, we are. Well, there we go. Jonathan Delaney. We want RJ. We want RJ. So everybody wants to talk to RJ. RJ up in third place right now. After his pit stop, he's having a great race. He's right on that cusp. I think right now it's going to be hard for him to fall out unless somebody like Adam Benefield or Cameron Stone comes up with a Hail Mary for a win.
Yeah, last time I pulled somebody in for an interview under green, things didn't end well. So, maybe that's what John's hoping. Maybe he's hoping that we pull in RJ and something bad happens. But we're going to save the interviews for any potential cautions. And in the meantime, we're just going to let these guys do their thing. As there's Blake Giglio working his way through the chicane back up onto the oval portion. He has gotten back up into the lead. Van de Sant is an entire 11 seconds back. But here's something interesting. So before the pit sequence, right after Van de Sant's spin, he was 15 seconds back, and that's where it kind of stabilized. So through everything that has happened, he's actually regained 4 of the seconds that he lost. Now, that's not a pace at which I think he'd be able to get to Blake before the end of the race. But it definitely shows that he still has one of the fastest cars in the field if he's able to run Blake down. And if we were to get another yellow flag, which if you remember earlier we surmised may happen around lap 80 to lap 90, if that threshold is the same this time as it was before, he's really got a shot at it. I mean, one of the fastest cars in the field. He's running down the leader. If he could just get a caution where he can restart, rack up the field, oh man. Lockup from Brandon Pierce, and I'm hearing that Sean O'Brien Jr. has manually disconnected. He is out of the session.
Ooh, do we know what happened there? Did he just...
So that is the end of his playoff hopes. Let's take a look at a 3-wide TV replay, and here comes Sean O'Brien Jr. down into this chicane. He's in the grass and then down up onto the curbing. Gets a little loose through the tribal. This is exactly what we saw Kevin Steele do. Except Sean slid a little bit further, and I think at that point, Michael, he had enough fun for one night.
I've been in that position before. I totally understand where he's coming from, but it looked like he was able to, he didn't cavity any damage there, so I guess he probably could have saved it there, but enough frustration for one night. probably just done. Bad thing for Sean O'Brien, because that's definitely going to end his chances at moving up into the playoffs for the final 8 here.
Now that, on the flip side, is good news for RJ Root, because that means his really only competition, barring Cam Stone or Adam Benefield getting a win tonight, is out of the race. So as long as Adam Benefield or Cam Stone do not win and RJ Root has a good points day, he's into the round of 8, and he's going to be progressing. So a good night continues to be good for him. We're going to take a look at a replay. The number 51 machine trying to get into the chicane. Didn't even touch the turtles. That was just the rumble strip, the curbing there. It turned him around, and then a gentle nudge into the wall.
He was able to save it there, but yeah, that was strange. He didn't get up on the curb. He just hit the little rumble strip. So I wonder if maybe he just had a little too much on the loud pedal there coming into entry and just carrying too much speed and just spun it around. The one thing I will say about RJ Root, he is in a great position, but right behind him is one of those drivers, Adam Benefield. So he's got to be careful from here on out. He knows who's behind him. He knows that Benefield has to win. He knows that he's got to place up a little bit higher. So if you're RJ Root, do you just kind of play defensively here? Do you go for the kill shot? What do you do? What would you do in this position?
Well, I think I'm not going to be too defensive. You got to look at the scoring and timing here. RJ Root and Adam Benefield are about 17 seconds back from our race leader. I don't think, if this stays green, Benefield has the pace to reach the front of the field. I don't think he can get around the Giglio. So even if he beats the number 8, the 8 can still advance. It would really only be a caution that would give Adam or Cam a chance to win this thing. And at that point, if we do get a caution, it doesn't matter if Benefield's restarting 3rd or 4th. It's still just as close. It's still going to be a row 2 restart. And it really doesn't make that much of a difference. Obviously, the inside may be a little bit better going into turn 1, but as far as gaining positions, it's not going to be a huge difference either way. So in the grand scheme of things, whether or not Benefield passes Root right now is rather inconsequential. But if you play too defensively, and Adam Benefield, who is currently desperate for a win, he's got to get this thing. He's going to say, okay, you're blocking me, you're in my way, time's running out, I don't want to do this, but I'm going to move you. And at that point, you have nobody to blame but yourself, because you were the one holding him up, knowing that he's going to be driving aggressive.
Yeah, and you bring up a great point, but counterpoint to that is if you let him by and you do get that caution, it's lap 80. We were predicting if we get another caution, it's going to be someplace in the 80 to 90 range. So if you do give him that spot for free and you get that caution, he gets that inside line. We've seen the leader just absolutely blitz it off of these restarts, whether it was Giglio or Van der Zandt. They both just absolutely just took off and just were gone. So that opens up that inside line. I think you're kind of stuck between a rock and a hard place here. I don't think the decision is as simple as just let them by, because, and you definitely don't want to hit that wall right there.
No, definitely not, especially when you've already tagged the wall a time or two. Again, that damage is just going to pile up. Let's take a look at a 3-wide TV replay. Is this what we just saw? Or no, this is another car. This is Alex Murray, I believe, in the... Oh, no, that's the number 5, Kyle Ammon. And that is tow link number 5 of the night. So Kyle Ammon trying to get a little bit extra speed out of that corner, swinging wide, hitting that wall. We got another driver, Matt Long. Don't tell me he did the same thing. Nope. No, what was that? Oh my goodness, let's go on board. Did he get loose and did it spin to the left?
I don't think so.
Was this some sort of hardware failure? Maybe his wheel just...
Yeah, he just...
Yeah, that looks like a hardware failure to me.
Yeah, that looked intentional. There's no way it was intentional, but it looked intentional.
Yeah, I mean, I can't imagine any reason that you'd want to do something like that, but oh no!
Who was that?
Adam Benefield.
Oh, that is not going to help his chances. That's going to give RJ Root quite the advantage.
Yeah, that is not beneficial at all. He's going to lose a ton of time doing that, dropping back to 5th. Bryson Nixonbaugh was able to get around him in all of that, and he's now 28 seconds back. So you got to remember, he was 17 seconds back. He just lost an extra 11 seconds through that spin, and now he's got a lot of tail end damage, which He's lucky that this is iRacing and not real life, because in real life it is those kind of low-speed rear-end hits that have been giving drivers concussions. So that is, one nice thing about sim rigs is that unless you've got a full motion rig and it malfunctions, you can't really get any real injuries.
Well, yeah, that is definitely a great thing here, but I've been hearing a lot of talk about that. Obviously, I'm not as clicked into NASCAR in real life as you guys are. I learn a lot from you guys every single week. I love working with you guys for that knowledge. I grew up watching NASCAR, and I love NASCAR. I just haven't really watched it too much over the last few years, but one thing I've noticed and one thing I've heard quite a bit about is that issue with the new car where they weren't having with the Gen 6 car, where you get these rear end hits and it just knocks you, it gives you a hard concussion, and just you don't want to see that from anyone, anywhere, any type of sport. Brain damage, brain injuries, it's one of the scariest things. And not only does it affect you in the short term, but there's unseen consequences long term. I really think that NASCAR really needs to take a long, deep look at these next gen cars and see if there's something that they can do about that.
And luckily, I think it is something that they can fix now that they know it's a problem. Because really, I think it boils down to two issues. Number one, the next gen car is a very short rear end. The deck lid on this car is minuscule compared to the Gen 6, which means that when you back this car into the wall, there's less of a crumple zone. And you combine that with the fact that this car is actually more rigid and doesn't give very much at all anywhere. When you back it into the wall, that force is getting transferred right to the driver. And of course, like Dale Jr. pointed out on his podcast, the other issue is the actual headrests and head restraints, because they're designed for head-on impacts. They are designed to keep you from whipping your head forward into the steering wheel, but they hadn't really considered a rear-end impact. So a lot of these drivers' heads are getting whipped back into the headrest, and that is part of the issue that Junior pointed out. So I think if it really is just those two factors that are creating this problem, it should be a pretty simple fix. Extend the deck lid on these cars, give them a bigger crumple zone, and maybe alter the head restraints a little bit, and it should be fixed. But I don't know. I'm not an engineer. We'll see if they can get that figured out. But again, here in the sim racing world, we can go backwards and hit things and not worry about it. So one of the nice things about sim racing. Speaking of worrying about things, though, look at that second place gap. It was 11 seconds. Then it was 10 seconds. Now it's 9 seconds, 9.5, give or take. He's closing in. Van de Sant is definitely reeling our leader in little by little. If we stay green, do you think he's got the pace to get to him?
We don't have that many laps left. He is catching him, but I don't think he's catching him at a quick enough pace to really, put a sweat into Blake Giglio. I think Giglio, as long as he doesn't make any, careless mistakes, as long as he's careful through traffic, he's gaining about a tenth or two on him, but over the course of the next 25 laps, I don't know if Van der Sant has the time, especially coming into traffic here. He just lost a half a second just on that turn alone, just trying to get by the 70 here. So, yeah, I think it'll be close, but I don't think it'll be too close. I think right now, as things stand, if we stay green, I think Blake Giglio, it's his race to lose at this point.
And I got to point out, the lap car that held up Van de Sant by almost a second is a teammate, a temporary teammate to our race leader, Blake Giglio. Michael Christopher was busy tonight. He was unable to race, so they got a fill-in driver in that number 70, Screw Maida, and he is currently racing for LMM. And so you got to wonder, who's slowing down Alex Van de Sant there? Maybe some team play.
I mean, it's part of the game. It's part of the race. He's every right to that line. So, I don't see how, if you're that teammate, you're here, you're subbing in, you're trying to make a good example, you're trying to set a good impression. Team orders all day. That makes the most sense to me. I agree. I think it was the right move for him.
Absolutely. I've been in that situation where maybe I'm not the driver on the team that's going to win, but somebody on my team is up there, and anytime somebody that is a threat comes up, you make that car wide. You try to protect your teammate. I remember back on the old NASCAR heat game, I was throwing some blocks for my teammate out front, and I asked the guy behind me, I'm like, how wide is my car? And he's like, I don't know, 5.5 feet, 6 feet. I said wrong. It's the whole track.
Yeah, no, defensive driving there. Great defensive driving by the 70s Comita. But yeah, this should be a really, really exciting ending here. As long as we stay green, 25 laps to go. I just don't know if Alex van der Sant has enough pace and has enough time to make up that deficit, because he was gaining, like you said, but now he's kind of stalled out a little bit.
And you know, I'm noticing. Oh, big issue there. Patrick Michet. What is going on? Patrick, you haven't won the race. Why are you doing burnouts? We're going to take a look at the replay here. See exactly what happened. Just locked up the right front going into the corner. Just got into the tire barrier. Broke a toe link and then through the corner. Just lost it. And then... Oh, no, actually... Carlos is saying the car is okay. He was just trying to get it turned around, and I think he had some hesitation there. He saw some cars in his windshield, so he had to kind of let off the throttle, and it was why he was burning up those tires. But very lucky for him to be able to get into that wall and not break the car. I thought for sure when I saw him hit that wall and the way that it acted in the next corner, I would have bet money that that car was broke. But no, he was all right to keep going. As got a few cars down pit road. Leader Blake Giglio coming through the chicane. Now, let's do some math here, Michael. So, I believe Blake Giglio hit it on lap 60, what was it, 62, 63? I'm not sure what lap he put it on. I want to say it was early 60s. If he's got to go to lap 109, I don't believe that's possible. I don't think he can make it.
I think he pushed his pit stop out a little bit further, though. We know Van der Sant was one of the last to pit, so I would assume that Van der Sant definitely has an edge here. But with that 9-second gap, maybe that's part of the reason why Van der Sant is able to catch a little bit, because Blake Giglio knows he needs to stretch this fuel just a little bit further. But yeah, I'm not sure what lap he came in. So that's a little bit of a guesswork for me.
Yeah, I don't remember exactly either. I know that Van der Sant came in on lap 76 and Bryson Ixenbaugh on lap 75. So they could theoretically make it to the end. It would be close, but they could make it. My concern with Blake is that even though I don't know exactly what lap it was a considerable amount of time prior. He was one of the first ones down pit road, and it was well in the 60s. It was nowhere near lap 70. So we'll see what he can do. Like we talked about earlier, there's a lot of opportunities to save here.
No caution this time around to help him out, but he went way longer on that second stint than we were predicting. So, I mean, could be another situation where we're just like not realizing how much he's fuel saving and how much he's able to really get around. As we see Van der Sant coming around, he is definitely gaining time. He's definitely making up time. But is there enough time? And does Giglio need to stop? That's the question.
And you know what? I think that tells me exactly what I need to know. Carlos pulled up the lap time differentials. Giglio was faster on lap 83 and 84. After that, all of a sudden, Van der Sant is 0.6 faster, 0.3 faster, 0.3 faster. I think Giglio's starting to save. I don't think that's tire fall off. We know that tire fall off is negligible here. I think that 16 is trying to save some fuel and stretch it to the end.
Yeah, it's going to be close for him if he can get to the end or not. 22 laps to go from here, or if he's going to have to jump in and do a little splash and dash. But if he does that, that's going to give the win straight over to Van der Sant. So it's going to be tough for him. Giglio's definitely got to kind of find a balance between saving just enough fuel without giving up that lead that he's built up. But part of building up that lead is to give him this little window of this little break here. So see if it works out for him.
Yeah, we'll have to wait and see. Here goes Van der Sant into turn one, into the infield section. Again, 0.5 faster last time around. So he's closing in, but it's 21 to go. And for the final time tonight, how about we take in the sights and sounds for just a moment of Charlotte, where they bring the noise. Okay, so we are back from the Bring the Noise. Got a bit of a replay. Let's check out what happened down on the back side of the track. Coming into the chicane, I believe this is the number 9 machine, Alex Princeton. So he's just getting to get a little bit loose. We do have a live points update. So our points guy, Cody Bird, has gotten back to me, and after the first 2 stages, as they run, the 4 drivers that are going to be eliminated look to be Cameron Stone, Adam Benefield, Sean O'Brien Jr., and Dustin Hall, which is not really a surprise. Obviously, Dustin Hall is absent tonight. Sean O'Brien Jr. DNF'd, and Adam Benefield and Cameron Stone were pretty much in a must-win scenario going into this race. So essentially, this has eliminated any question for the number 8. RJ Root is no longer a question. Matt Long is looking pretty good in points as well. He is currently the final driver that will be making it into the round of 8. The only thing that can really change the point results after tonight, by any massive degree, is if Adam Benefield or Cameron Stone win this race. Now, they're both having pretty good runs. Benefield and Stone are 5th and 6th, respectively, but they are quite a ways back from our leaders. So, barring a caution, I don't think we're going to see the points picture shaken up too much, but we'll have to wait and see. Blake Giglio still has the lead. 6 seconds back to Van de Sanson. He is really closing that gap rapidly. We've been following along with his number 96. He's not saving at all, and he has no need to. Again, he's pretty much set on fuel. Giglio does not have that luxury, though.
No, Giglio does not. In the chat, the 100 Cup Series admin is telling us that Blake Giglio pitted on lap 66. So if Van der Zandt pitted on lap 76, puts him 10 laps ahead, so he does not have to deal with that at all. He is going to be able to comfortably make it to the end here. Blake Giglio is definitely having to lay off the coast as much as possible here, which is just playing into Van der Zandt's hands. We know Van der Zandt is fast. He was up front on pole. He was up front for a majority of the first half of the race. He won the first stage. So this is really just playing into his hands here. The question is, does Blake Giglio have enough gas to get to the end?
Well, I did some math. If he did pit on lap 66, that means he would have to go 43 laps to the end of the race. The longest fuel run we've seen tonight was 37 laps. That was Alex Van de Sandt. So take the longest fuel run we've seen, tack on an extra 6 laps. That's how far Blake Giglio has to go, which is pretty crazy. And I'm not entirely sure it's going to be possible. Now, he's doing his best to save that fuel. You can see on that timing and scoring, his lap times have dropped pretty drastically compared to Van de Sandt, and that is by design. I'm sure he's doing that just to try to limp this thing around, but 43 laps doesn't even remotely sound possible to me, but who knows? I've definitely seen stranger things at road courses.
Yeah, no, it opens up quite a bit of opportunities for, saving here. But, it really depends, because you can't save here on turn 9, but you can save quite a bit going into the bus stop chicane. You can save quite a bit going into the front chicane, turns 15 and 16. There's portions of this track that, really allow you to really save, but 37 laps is the longest we've had. Add another 6 to that, and add in the fact that you're trying to fight off for the lead. At some point, Van der Zandt's going to be on his bumper. He's not going to be able to fuel save forever. He's going to have to fight. That's just going to make it harder for him. That's just going to burn up more fuel for him.
Yeah, I mean, if I'm Blake Giglio, I'm going to come down pit road. I'm going to take a splash of gas, literally just a quick splash, and I'm going to get back out as quickly as possible. Van der Zandt's definitely going to get ahead of you. It's only a 6-second lead, but at that point, honestly, I think the best play for Giglio would have been to come for that splash of gas a long time ago when he still had a solid 15-second gap back to the number 96. But now he's given up that gap by trying to save fuel. So if he abandons this strategy, if he hits the abort button and he does come down pit road after all this saving, not only has he given up the time, but he still has to pit. So it's a lose-lose situation. I think he's committed to just staying out now. And if he runs out, he runs out. But it's not a great situation. And remember, this all stems from that caution on lap 39. Blake was one of the only drivers on the lead lap to not pit. And now, as a result, I said all the way back then, if it comes down to fuel mileage, he's at a huge disadvantage now. a couple hours later and 40, 50 laps later, it's coming to fruition. It's playing out just like we kind of thought it might, because he's not got that other yellow. Also, I want to give a quick update on Matt Long. We called it perfectly, Michael. It was a hardware failure. He put in the Discord chat that his computer locked up and froze. He just had to get on the brakes and try to get off the track out of everybody's way, and actually couldn't even turn it off. He had to like force power down the power brick to his computer. So huge hardware failure there, and that's why the incident looked as strange as it did.
No, that's definitely unfortunate, especially in that situation. But I mean, technology is always going to happen, just like in real life. You know, these cars break down in real life, so these things happen. It's just a little bit different situation. Instead of having you know, something break on the car, you're having your computer lock up. So we've all been there. It's frustrating, and as soon as we saw it, we knew something wasn't right. But that's just frustrating. Good thing for him though, he's going to be okay. Yeah, I'm really concerned for Giglio here. I think he just kind of, like you said, he's committed at this point, but I would come in anyways. You're going to have a solid chance for a top 3. You know, you're not falling back to RJ Root 4th, who's 44 seconds behind you. You might lose a spot to Bryson Hickenbob, but you're still in 3rd place. You're still getting great points for the championship. If you run out of fuel now, that's going to drop you all the way back out of the the top 10, the top 20. Sure, you're going to be in the championship, but points. I think he comes in for a splash now. Just let Van der Zandt take the win. Just bite the bullet. Unless he knows for certain that he's got enough gas to make it, I don't see how it's worth the gamble.
Now, one thing to note here is that the rate at which Van der Zandt has been catching our leader has kind of slowed down. It actually lingered at about 6 seconds for numerous laps. So that was multiple times around that Giglio and Van der Zandt were pushing it just about as equally hard. Obviously, Van der Zandt has now brought it down to 5.7, so he gained a few tenths the last time through the infield. But because this rate of closing has basically stabilized and ceased, that tells me there are 2 possibilities. Number 1, Blake has quit saving, and that's why he's able to hold this gap. Or Van der Zandt has started saving, and he's also concerned. Now, if that's the case, and they both have to pit, that's huge, because that means everybody has to pit. If Van der Zandt can't make it, nobody can, because he stayed out longer than anybody else. And actually, our leader got in the wall a little bit there, a little bit aggressive. That's going to cost him some time, but if everybody has to pit, that's great for Blake. But the other possibility, I reckon the 3rd possibility that I'm overlooking here, is that Blake isn't good on fuel, and he just quit saving because he knows that it's pointless to save. If I'm going to run out, I'm going to run out, so I might as well just get on it.
Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. If you're going to run out, you know you're going to run out. Try to get that gap built back up, but I don't think it's worth the risk of running out. I think you just come in for a splash and, just take your 3rd place. You have a chance at 2nd place still, but Van der Zandt isn't in the. Oh, we have a caution.
Oh my goodness!
That is going to change everything. That is insane. That's going to change everything.
That is huge, because now the fuel disparity is no longer a factor. We had an issue with Bryson Hickenbob. I don't believe this is what brought out the caution, but we're going to take a look. He's getting into the chicane on the front stretch, in the grass just a little bit too long. But he was able to keep it gathered up. Nothing too big there. But I think what happened there was we just reached the threshold for the caution, just as we had with the first one. So, man, oh man. Blake is likely going to be coming down pit road. Van der Zandt may actually be able to stay out and take the lead. And that's actually really good for Van der Zandt, because think about it. Tire wear doesn't exist. You don't have to worry about, oh, well, if I stay out just to gain some track position, I'm going to be at a disadvantage later. That disadvantage doesn't exist. So with this caution, he's going to be pacing around the track. That's going to be saving a massive amount of fuel, which means he's likely good to the end, and he's not giving up any time for it. So he can just stay out and inherit the lead. Meanwhile, I think Blake has to pit. Even if he thinks that maybe with the pace laps he could somehow stretch it, like you said, Michael, it's too big of a risk, because if you run out especially on a road course, there's no guarantee you're making it back to your pit stall to get a fuel. You might have to take a tow. I was broadcasting a race just last night at the Charlotte Oval, and the race leader stayed out one lap too long, ran out of gas on the back straightaway, had to coast at like 40 miles an hour all the way around turns 3 and 4, down pit road, lost a ton of time doing it, and he was never able to recover from that. So you do not want to put yourself in a situation where you're trying to coast to your box.
No, especially not on a road course, because you don't have the advantage of just the banking, the straightaway, the banking, and then you can kind of roll and coast down, because you got to come down for the chicane. It just doesn't make sense to me for him to stay out unless he knows for certain that he can make it. And if he knows for certain that he could make it before the caution is just going to help him out. You know, if he already knows, if he knows something that we don't, if he knows he can stretch this out, then this caution is just going to give him the ability to defend harder. But I don't see it. I think he comes down pit lane right here. And he actually, in my opinion, missed his chance, because now he's going to come down pit lane, and unless he's joined, he's going to shuffle all the way back to the ninth place. So this kind of, you know, is a make or break move here. If we see him jump down the pit lane, then his strategy failed. If he stays out, he knows something we don't, or he just ready to run out.
Yeah, we'll have to wait and see what does he do here coming around 3 and 4. It is decision time behind the wheel of 16, and he is going to come down pit road. Van de Sant stays out. Chad Sanner stays out one lap down. I believe Bryson Nixonbaugh stays out. We've got the number 11, Robert Anderson. He's coming down pit road. So, yeah, that is going to be a ton of time lost for Blake Giglio. Then you have the number 9, I believe maybe the number 5. Again, I can't quite make out these cars entirely, but really very few cars from the lead pack coming down pit road. This is perfect for Van de Sant and Nixonbaugh. We're going to throw it to a short break while they sort this out and pace around the Roval here. We'll be back for the drop of the green. We're going to go green with, I believe, 9 to go, so a shootout to the end, and it's going to be dramatic. And we are back for the parking lot 400 here at the Roval. 10 to go currently. It'll be 9 to go at the drop of the green. A little bit of a points update. Cody Bird has run the math, and as they run for this restart, with Benefield in 4th, Cameron Stone in 5th, and Matt Long being DNF'd in 21st position. Currently, Adam Benefield is 10 points beneath the cut line, and Cameron Stone is 11 points beneath the cut line. Now, you might have noticed, there is not enough cars in front of them for them to get those points legitimately on track. They are still in a must-win situation, and every single driver is pretty much mathematically locked in, except for Matt Long. Matt Long is the only driver who could be bumped out with a win from Adam Benefield or Cam Stone. So, other than that, the top 7 in points are pretty much set in stone, no pun intended, for the next series of races here, the round of 8. And the pace car is coming around turn 4 for what is likely the final restart of the race. There is not enough time to hit that threshold again, I'm sure. So likely the final green flag for the night through that infield chicane. And it's going to be a great start for Alex Van de Sant. Not quite as big of a jump as we've seen historically. He does have Bryson Nixonbaugh pressuring him from behind. Behind these two drivers, we had a bit of a hornet's nest, a ton of drivers side by side. Bryson spinning after turn 1. There's shrapnel all over the track. He's going to take a tow. I'm not sure if anybody else got into him there.
Man.
That Patrick Mouchet who maybe got into him. We're going to take a look at the True Wide TV replay and try and figure out what transpired here. The 63 on that turtle when it landed, it just got a little bit sideways. But, oh no, it was Cameron Stone. Front end hit.
Yeah, that's definitely really going to hurt Cameron Stone's chances at a victory here. The worst case scenario for him. We also saw Adam Benefield got a horrible jump, and it wasn't even that he had a bad start. It's just being on the inside of that chicane on the restart, or I'm sorry, yeah, on the inside. Well, I guess technically it'd be the outside, but the inside of turn 15, outside of turn 16, really sets you at such a disadvantage there. He got up on the curb and just wasn't able to make up time. You see, yeah, the 46 going around a little bit further back, but Adam Benefield really missing out. If RJ Root had given up that position, he would have had the inside line, just like you were talking about earlier. Now RJ Root's up in the 2nd, but you see Stone there, even though he caught that damage, he's up in the 3rd, Giglio in 4th. Benefield fell back to 9th. Yeah, fell back into 9th. Gone.
Benefield is looking to be calling it a night. He is not on track that we can see. So unfortunate there. He may be blinking out. As our producer points out, he may just be having a connection issue, because if you look at the timing and scoring, it's not changing for him. It's remaining 1 second behind Ralph Hutchison there. So very strange scenes here. Adam Benefield not usually one to have internet issues, but we'll keep an eye on him. I also want to point out, man, what a situation for Cam Stone to be in. He's currently in 3rd. He's in a must-win situation. If he wants to move on to the round of 8, he's got to win this race. But the two drivers in front of him are his own drivers. It's his team. RJ Root, Alex Van de Sant, both driving for Silver Bullet Racing. It is Cam Stone's teammates, and they're the ones that may potentially snipe away this win and keep the boss man out of the round of 8. Got a bit of a replay. It is going to be Alex in the number 9. Just a little bit loose on the transition there. You pointed that out earlier, Michael. It is really rough when you go from that flat apron up into that banking, and kind of saw what happens there.
Yeah, you don't really generally deal with that as much, hopefully, when you're racing the ovals. We're coming out of the infield section here. It just puts you right on that apron into the banking. So you got to be really careful, especially coming out of, a caution where, even though the tires aren't really... Oh, we got an update. Adam Benefield was DQ'd. Oh, that's just gut-wrenching. You see him there in chat there. Adam Benefield was DQ'd. That is gut-wrenching. Would that be the 21 incident limit? Is that what happened there?
Yeah, that would be the 21 limit there. And it's kind of kind of disappointing, and it's strange. It is not the first time Adam Benefield has been the victim of the incident limit. I remember back at Road America at the beginning of the season, he was the first driver, and actually maybe the only driver, to get DQ'd for the incident limit. And it was never that he was like getting into other cars or making a lot of contact. It was just that the track limits at Circuit of the Americas, I should say. Circuit of the Americas has very strict track limits, and he was just kind of racking up 1Xs here and there. Now, in this race, his incident count was not helped by the fact that Cameron Stone got into him there through the chicane, and that was an easy 4X right there, which, if it weren't for that, he would have had enough points in the bank that he could have made it to the end. But that's what we talked about earlier, Michael. Sometimes, especially knowing how car contact and wall contact can really add up over time, you got to be careful how much you're cutting the track, because you have to leave yourself some room for error.
Yeah, it's just so much more strategy here on a road course. Just watching out. Yeah, sure. There's certain situations where if you cut a corner here and there, you're gonna get a better lap time. You're gonna stay a little bit more competitive at some part of the race. But at the end of the race, it's just gonna add up and add up and add up. And the worst thing that can happen to you is exactly what happened there. Adam Benefield disqualified. Unfortunately, that's gonna ruin his chances of making it to the final 8. That's gut-wrenching.
So up front, we've got Blake Giglio trying to get around Cam Stone. This is not an unfamiliar sight for Blake. Looking at the rear end of that number 57, of course, after that pit sequence, Blake tried for many a lap to get around that 57, and he held him up quite a bit. So we're kind of seeing a repeat of that as Cameron Stone is just barely able to keep this position over that number 16, and ahead of him, he's watching his team drive off into the sunset. RJ Root now with about a second advantage over Cameron Stone, and both of these drivers falling several seconds back to Alex Van de Sant, who, once he got the lead, he has just set sail, and he is pulling away by not a small margin. I mean, he is a lot quicker per lap, and this is what we saw at the beginning of the race. It's what we kind of expected out of this 96, and now it's all starting to come together. 5 laps to go, big lead, not a whole lot to worry about. It's your team behind you, so they're not going to race you too hard by any means. Things are looking pretty good right now for that 96.
Yeah, no, that 96 has definitely got an opportunity here with 2 teammates. Oh, he got way up on the curb there. But yeah, with 2 teammates here, he's got a chance. But I mean, you got to be careful with Giglio right on his tail here. Can't open up the door too much. His teammates can't really just let him by, because that runs the risk of having Giglio run up through him too. So it's gonna be an epic finish here. Really gonna be an epic finish here. I think 4 laps to go.
Now riding on board with Blake Giglio as he tries to get another position on the 57. So Blake again is pretty much locked into the next round. Even if Cameron Stone were to win this race, Blake would still make it into the next round. The only driver at risk of getting bumped out is Matt Long. So really not a whole lot to gain or lose here for Blake. Really just kind of bragging rights and maybe another trophy on the mantle if he could get up to our leader. But the laps are winding down and the gap is only extending, so I don't think that's super likely, especially with that bit of a bobble coming on to the transition there. He got on the throttle a little bit too hard, lost some time to Cameron Stone. Now he's going to have to back off, cool down those tires, regroup a little bit. Diving it in deep to the chicane, though, really outbroke the 57. See if he can carry that momentum out. Not quite. Cameron getting a good exit. And that is where that 57's been good all night long, Michael. It seems like he's better on exit than a lot of these guys. Just managing to extend that gap, get on the power a little bit sooner. And I think it's that wider exit that he takes.
Yeah, and even though Giglio was able to outbrake him, that actually kind of compromised his line a little bit. That's why Stone is just getting so much of a better exit. It's just so much smoother into that first part of the chicane. So he's able to really get that wide exit, keep his speed up, and that's what gives him that advantage there. And honestly, it makes Giglio have to second guess his braking points. He has to second guess his braking marks, because not only is he trying to outbrake him, but he's got to overthink it now, because he knows that he's outbraking him, but he knows there's no place for him to go. So he's got to correct his line through that corner if he really wants to make a move.
Yeah, just little adjustments, and that's really what it takes at these road courses. I remember we had a very interesting race at the Circuit of the Americas, and I believe it was. I'm trying to remember who won that race. It was one of the Coke Series drivers. Struggling to recall which one. Ottinger. It was Nick Ottinger, and I remember Nick Ottinger's teammates were saying, you know, it's crazy what makes Nick so fast around this track. It's not that he's massively quicker at any one part of the track. What it is he's just able to get a tenth here, a tenth there, and throughout the course of the entire lap, it adds up to a huge margin when he's able to just pick up a little bit at each portion. And so to get those extra tenths, it is just minor adjustments. If you're overdriving the entry to a corner, back it up a little bit more, slow in, fast out, just little minute line adjustments. And when you're following somebody like Blake has been following Cameron Stone, it can be difficult when you're the tailing car, and like you said, you have to kind of second guess where you're braking, what you're doing, because you got a windscreen full of 57. Making those little adjustments is a lot easier said than done.
Yeah, no, it's way easier said than done. But that makes a lot of sense, especially at a track that's, I mean, this is obviously a road course, but COTA is just another animal altogether. It's so many different opportunities to just make up a tenth here, tenth there, in every single sector. There's so many corners that just it's mind-boggling sometimes to think how much quicker you can be, you know, without even putting in a fast sector. You know, you can have 3 solid sectors, and just because not a single one of them was the fastest doesn't mean that you didn't have the fast overall time, because you could just put in a solid lap, a consistent lap, and that's where it's all about. And we see here we are on the final lap. So Van der Zandt, RJ Root, Cam Stone, Blake Giglio. Hoytsma rounds out your top 5, but Van der Zandt looks like he's comfortably in the lead here, and I really have a hard time believing this race is going to go any other way than the way it started.
Yeah, Van der Zandt coming out of the infield here. He's back onto the oval section of the track, and he is only half a lap away from a checkered flag. He is one of the few drivers in the Discord that has consistently been saying how much he loves this track. I've heard a lot of people dragging their feet, you know, saying, I don't really want to do this race. This track is too difficult. It's not my cup of tea. But then you got Van der Zandt. He's just been saying, I love this place. I've been looking forward to this race all year long. Well, now we know why he's been looking forward to it. He is a rocket ship here, and he is going to come through the final chicane one last time. A huge margin back to second place. And it is going to be the 96 taking the checkered flag for the parking lot 400. And behind him, a big battle for third place. Blake Giglio gives it all shot to try to pass Cameron Stone, but it's not going to be enough. Cam holds on to third. And between them, you've got RJ Root. Blake Giglio 4th, Lucas Hoytsma 5th. Dicciani somehow gets up to 6th. I don't think we mentioned that car all night long, and yet here he is sneaking into the top 10. Great run for Dicciani. Tanner Marty, P7. I believe that is Hutchison in P6. P8. The graphics a little bit low quality for me right now. Brandon Pierce, P9. And Screwmeta is going to bring it home in 10th, 2 laps down. So that is going to do it for the on-track racing. We're going to let the winner burn that car to the ground, do some celebration. Like Giglio doing some initial lead drifting out of the infield there. Takumi Fujiwara behind the wheel of that thing, having some fun.
That was a great race. I always love road racing, especially with these NASCAR. You know, these next gen, it's just, they're such tough, challenging cars. When you put them, like, they're hard to deal with on our oval course, and you put them on a road course, and it's just a completely different animal. Such great attention to detail for all these cars that we see. Van der Zandt just completely throwing that chicane aside. He's gonna come out here, throw it around for some donuts. Well deserved. Stage 1 winner, overall winner. Alex Van der Zandt, let's go.
It is going to be a team celebration, although probably a bittersweet celebration for Cam Stone. Again, just coming up short of making the round of 8 and watching his teammates get the win that he needed so desperately. Again, it's a great day for the team. 1, 2, 3 for SBR. It's just not the order that I'm sure Cam was really hoping it would be. There's Brandon Pierce as well, who had a pretty good night in that 38 machine. He's going to join the team. They're going to get a photo snapped up there. Cam's still doing some burnouts. But all right, we have our drivers in the waiting room, so I'm going to assume they're ready. I'm going to bring up third place Cam Stone. Actually, as producer pointed out, we'll go through the race results real quick. Alex Van Desant takes the win. RJ Root bringing it home P2. Cameron Stone third. Blake Giglio fourth. Lucas Hoytsma fifth. Matt Dicciani again, just a very silently good night there in sixth. Tanner Marty P7. Ralph Hutchison P8. Brandon Pierce ninth. And Travis Scrumata 10th. Michael?
Yep. Nolan Hodgson taking 11th place. Kevin Steele in 12th. Chad Sander in 13th place. Jason Baker in 14th. Alex Princeton in 15th. Patrick Mush in 16th. Bryson Hicksonbaugh in 17th. Adam Benefield falling back to 18th place. Robert Anderson in 19th. Kyle Ammon in 20th place. Matt Long in 21st. Sean O'Brien 22nd. Derek Heitman in 23rd. Preston McRae in 24th. Devin Medeiros in 25th. And if you want to go ahead and finish it off for us, Andre?
And just rounding out the field, we got Ryan Samuelson, Wayne Grassy, Jason Taylor, Dalton Mobley, Damaris Hickenbottom, Chad Edwards, P31, Jonathan Delaney in 32nd. Randy Drumhiller is going to finish out the field in 33rd, 93 laps down. That is going to do it for the post-race results. Now it's time to talk to some of the drivers that finished in the top three. Again, we're going to start with third. We'll bring up Cam Stone. Cam Stone, you got a copy?
Yes, sir.
Well, Cam, probably a very bittersweet celebration there. It was a 1-2-3 for the team. You can't ask for much more than that as the boss man, but just coming up a little bit short to get into the round of 8. How you feeling, man?
We just didn't have the race I needed to have. We kind of got lucky with the caution at the end, the way it came out, and I think Adam hit the incident limit. Bryson spun out over there, and actually I cleaned him out when I came by. I'm surprised my car didn't die right there, but it's point in the race where he just came back out. So yeah, great night for the team. I think this is the first time anybody in the league's finished 1-2-3 at a non-plate race, which at a road course is even more impressive. So great job to these guys. Van Desant worked really hard this week building the set, and it showed with him just outpacing everybody. Got to give a shout out to Blake Giglio. I was definitely holding him up there at the end, but he knew everything that I had at stake, and appreciate him for not dive bombing me or anything there at the end. Yeah, it feels good. Have 1-2-3. Came up a little bit short in the points. Think Souza told me I was 7 points shy, but gave it everything we had. Can't ask much more than that. So did a little burnout there to celebrate the end of the year for me.
Now, you say you celebrate the end of the year for you. Now, are you going to maybe come back and do some trophy hunting in the remaining races, or you going to hang up the helmet?
We'll be back points racing for sure after a night like tonight. Oh, the engine just blew up. But yeah, after a night like tonight, getting all the team points that we did, we made up a lot of ground on LDR in that championship at least. So I've got another championship to hunt. So not time to quit, just the end of my championship hopes.
Gotcha. Now, that race was eventful. I mean, from beginning to end, there was a lot of things that just seemed to be shifting that race one way and the other. The running order just kind of getting jumbled up here and there. If you could have done anything differently in that race, if anything, what would it have been?
Maybe hope that the guys in front of me that were setting the pace weren't two of my own cars. I would have probably stuck it in there in turn one and just to see what would happen. But it's two of my own guys. And like I said, Alex worked so hard this week. I didn't want to jeopardize his shot at winning a race. But yeah, I mean, I could have not blown the backstretch chicane about 9 times. I think that would have helped a little bit. I think my front tire, we didn't change tires all night, so iRacing still got the concrete tires on. I'm pretty sure both front tires have about 9 flat spots on them, so I'm driving on cinder blocks at the moment. But wasn't really a lot I could do. I was just outpaced. I practiced a lot this week. I've definitely told you plenty of times that this is one of my least favorite tracks, so good to mark this one off the calendar for another year.
Absolutely. I mean, for a track that you're not too fond of, you can't complain about a podium. Now, you mentioned you still got the team championship to go for, and again, great points night for the team, making up a lot of room on LDR, who I think for a while everybody just kind of thought, yeah, their lead's big enough that they're going to run away with this team championship. But with their poor performance tonight and you guys getting 1, 2, 3, I think that changes things. I think a win is definitely a possibility here. With the tracks we got coming up, we got Homestead, we got Vegas, we got Martinsville. I know you're a big fan of Martinsville. Is there any tracks you're really looking to make up even more points?
Well, we got 4 tracks left, and I'm a big fan of 3 of them. I really like Phoenix. Run pretty good there just about every time we go. Martinsville's always one I feel like I got a shot to win. Vegas, oddly enough, is the only track I've won on more than once. So I guess it's my best mile and a half. Homestead's the only one that I'm not a big fan of. Yeah, I got some good ones coming up. I think the team's going to build some good sets coming to those, and I think it'll be pretty tight points battle for the team championship coming to the end.
All right. Well, congratulations on the podium. Before we let you go, is there any shout outs you'd like to make?
Yeah, definitely got to shout out the team. Great performance tonight. Alex, RJ, Brandon. Actually, I mean, he's not up here in the top 3, so he's not getting all the clout, but came in P9 after starting way back in the field. So great job for him. Got to thank Jeff Souza helping out all year. All the guys over at Triad helping to build sets. Appreciate Mom and Pops. They've been watching all year. It's been a tough year. Appreciate y'all hanging in there for me. Conrad, he's probably in the chat. Letting everybody know he's here for 57. So him and Megan, appreciate those guys watching. Any of my other buddies that decided to tune in for the race, I told them it was probably gonna be a wild one, so hopefully the viewer count's up a little bit. Thank Carmen for giving me all kinds of time to sit down here in my rig and obsess over video game cars. Coors Light, Kevin Steele for making paints, Ford, all my make-believe sponsors, thank you, love you. Andre, you're great. Appreciate all 3 wide folks. Carlos, you're great. Yeah, that's it. Y'all might hear from me again if I finish top 3.
All right. Well, we're looking forward to it, and yeah, I think we'll definitely be talking to you again at Martinsville for sure.
Thank you, bud.
All right, 3rd place out of the booth. I'm going to hand 2nd place to Michael David here. Let's see what RJ Root thinks about the race.
RJ Root, 2nd place, man. Congratulations on the finish. How'd it feel out there? That was a crazy race.
Oh, man. At the end of the race, my tires were gone. I was pushing so hard. I got close. Really wanted to catch Alex, but, congrats to him. And the SBR 123, I mean, that was really impressive by us.
Yeah, no, that's a definite solid team finish there. You were getting a ton of shout-outs here. You and Alex were both getting a ton of shout-outs here in the chat. Everybody wanted to have a conversation with you, so I'm glad that you got into 2nd place here. You are definitely in it for the round of 8 here, so we got 4 more races to go. Are you excited about any particular tracks?
I'm extremely excited about going back to Martinsville. Have always ran really good there. I think my worst finish there has been like a P8. So I'm really excited about going there and going to Homestead, because Homestead just provides such good racing.
Yeah, no, definitely a great track. So yeah, no, final top 3 here. All 3 of you guys, Cameron Stone, getting knocked out of the championship, but you guys still have a strong chance at winning, the team championship. Any thoughts on that?
I mean, I feel like that's our main focus. Trying to get me to the final 4 is, is a focus, but it's not our main focus. We want to get that team championship.
Oh, definitely not. Everybody wants that team championship.
I'm definitely going to try to make it to the round of 4.
Yeah. Well, good luck next week. Next week is Homestead, I believe. Good luck
Las
next
Vegas.
week. Oh, next week is Las Vegas. Let me pull up my schedule. My mistake. Yep, Las Vegas next week. So yeah, anybody you want to shout out to?
I really got to shout out Burnt Rubber Productions, Klipsch, Prodigy Esports, Speedy Technology, everybody over at Prodigy for putting together this amazing setup. I really got to thank Sean Conklin for giving me his adjustments to it. And yeah, That's about it.
Well, RJ, congratulations on second place tonight. Great race, great finish. Thanks for joining us, and good luck next week. Hope to talk to you again.
Thank you, guys.
Second place finisher out of the booth. And now to wrap up our interviews, we're going to have a word with race winner, Alex Van de Sant. Let's bring him up. Mr. Van de Sant, you got a copy?
I do.
Well, Alex, I've interviewed you as an iRock winner. I've interviewed you as the iRock champion. And now I'm interviewing you as a 100% Cup Series winner here at the Roval. What is it about this track, Alex? I mean, you were, bar none, the car to beat. Just far and away, class of the field, all night long. And you've been looking forward to this race. I've seen you in the Discord looking forward to this race, talking about how much you love the track. What is it, man?
Yeah, absolutely. I don't know what it is about this track. I've just I think it's the mix of the technicality and just the mix of slow speed and high speed. It's just so much fun to drive and to race, and it's such a challenge. Going wheel to wheel with other cars and trying to set up a pass. And, it's just a lot of fun. I did a lot of prep for this race in the week before, and a lot of officials this week. But yeah, anytime it comes up on any series schedule, I'm going to be there. So, yeah, just so glad to bring home a win. I'm glad all that hard work for the team paid off. We got a podium sweep, which is huge for team points. And yeah, just this could not have gone any better, really.
Yeah, a great night for the team and a great night for you. Now, there was a point in this race where it seemed like Blake was trying to conserve before the caution because he had pitted on lap, I believe, 66, and you'd pitted on lap 76. When you pitted on lap 76, were you conserving it all after that, or were you, even if it had gone green, were you good to the end?
Yeah, I did need to save a little bit. So we knew a caution was likely very late in the race, just because of where it fell for the first one. So I did need to save like half a lap of fuel anyway, just to make it the last 34 laps. But then I was saving more on top of that in case we got overtime, because I didn't want to get stuck having to pit right at the end there. So yeah, it worked with where the caution landed. It worked out. Blake was forced to pit. I didn't think he had any shot of making it there anyway. It just didn't pay off for him. But shout out. He probably, I think he led the most laps. So great job for him. But yeah, just was really just trying to keep the pace up and stay in touch with the people ahead of me until they made their mistakes, and just take care of the tires and not hit the wall or tear it down or break a toe link or anything like that.
Now, you mentioned the toe link. There was, I believe, 6 separate drivers who broke toe links tonight, and it never really took a lot. I mean, just one tap to the wall in the wrong place, and it seemed like your night was done. And that's something that you guys were all aware of going into this race. I don't think it was a secret that, yeah, if you get into the wall, the car is pretty much shot. And it was strange. Normally we don't see these cars that fragile, but did the knowledge of that danger of the toe link breaking, did that change the way you approached this race or the way you drove, or did you just kind of run your line and hope for the best?
No, definitely. I did enough laps where I was fairly comfortable running up close to the wall, but definitely when I didn't need to be pushing 100%, like I would back off, leave maybe another foot to the wall in a couple places. Yeah, you could get away with some big hits if you hit it right, but if you just caught the wrong angle, your day was done. I learned that the hard way in an official race earlier this week, and a big one was John. I mean, he was right there with me for that first run, so if he hadn't made that mistake, who knows what would have happened. But yeah, so shame for those guys, but yeah, we just were able to take care of it all and bring it home.
Absolutely. It was a good win indeed. Now, before we let you go, is there any shout-outs you'd like to make?
Yeah, big thank you to everybody at Silver Bullet Racing, Cam, RJ, Brandon. They drove phenomenally today, and Jeff spotting and crew chiefing, doing all the playoff math for Cam. And then everybody at Triad. I've learned so much from them, and I've improved so much as a driver, just being around these guys and learning from them and some of the best. So yeah, big thanks to them for bringing me on.
All right. Well, again, congratulations on the win. We're going to let you go celebrate. Thank you for your time, Alex.
Thanks, guys.
Race winner out of the booth. And that is just about going to do it for us here on 3 Wide TV from the Roval. Yeah, it was a fun race. A lot of fun. I always love going road course racing, and this race did not disappoint. Michael, you got any post-race thoughts here?
Man, I just can't believe how awesome that racing was. We saw some great wheel-to-wheel action all night long. I'm kind of sad that we have to go. Honestly, can't we do another like 20, 30 laps?
Yeah, we can set up a 3-lap shootout.
Hey, green, white, checkered. Let's go. No, it was a great race. Great working with you guys as well. Really enjoy every chance I get to work with you guys. Thanks for having me here. And those are my 2 cents here. I thought it was a great race.
I'd have to agree with that sentiment. As always, I've been Andre Grambush, joined alongside Michael David and producer Carlos Acosta, pushing the buttons, bringing all the action to your TVs and computers. We will see you next week, everybody.